Hello and welcome to the Fiction Wizard, your home for amazing stories. Today's story is What If Luna and Harry Fell in Love? The unexpected match. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe if you haven't already. We post new stories regularly. Let's get started. Chapter 1, Seeing Thestrals. Harry Potter couldn't sleep. Again. Every time he closed his eyes, flashes of the graveyard played on repeat. Cedric dropping dead, Voldemort rising from that cauldron, his parents' ghostly forms. He gave up trying around 5 a.m. and slipped out of the Gryffindor dormitory, wand clutched in his sweaty palm. The castle was eerily quiet this early, and Harry liked it that way. No stares. No whispers about whether he was crazy or attention-seeking. Just him and his thoughts echoing off ancient stone walls. He found himself wandering toward the castle entrance, desperate for fresh air to clear the fog of nightmares. The September morning was cool but promised warmth later. Hogwarts ground stretched before him, dew-covered and peaceful in ways he wasn't. Harry headed toward the edge of the Forbidden Forest, not really planning to go in, just needing somewhere to be alone. That's when he spotted her, a girl with long blonde hair that caught the early sunlight, standing perfectly still near the tree-line. She wasn't wearing school robes, just a peculiar combination of what looked like a nightgown with a school jumper thrown over it, mismatched socks pulled up to her knees, and what appeared to be, were those radishes hanging from her ears. The girl was holding something in her outstretched hand. As Harry approached, he realized she was offering what looked like raw meat to thin air. "Hello," she said without turning, as if she'd known he was there all along. Hi," Harry replied, stopping a few feet away. "What are you doing?" She turned then, and Harry was struck by her eyes, large, silvery gray, and utterly unblinking as they studied him. "Feeding the Thestrals," she said, as though it was the most obvious thing in the world. "They're ever so gentle, but people avoid them because they're different." Harry followed her gaze and suddenly saw them, skeletal, winged horses with dragon-like faces. He jumped back, startled. "You can see them too?" the girl asked, sounding pleased. "That's nice. Most people can't. I've been able to see them since my first day here. They've always pulled the carriages." Harry felt his mouth fall open. "Wait, these pull the school carriages? I always thought they moved by themselves." The girl laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Nothing moves by itself at Hogwarts. Well, except the suits of armor sometimes, and Peeves, of course. But why can we see them when others can't?" Harry asked, cautiously approaching one of the creatures. Its leathery wings folded against its bony body as it accepted meat from the girl's hand. "Only people who've seen death can see Thestrals," she said, her dreamy voice suddenly solemn. "They're quite misunderstood creatures. People fear them because they associate them with death, but they're actually quite gentle." Harry felt something inside him shift as he realized why he'd suddenly started seeing them this year. "Cedric. I'm Luna, by the way," she said, wiping her hand on her nightgown. "Luna Lovegood." "Harry Potter," he replied automatically, bracing for the usual reaction, the widened eyes, the glance at his forehead. But Luna just nodded. "I know. You have quite the Raxbird infestation around your head. They're invisible creatures that float through your ears and make your brain go fuzzy. It's hardly surprising, considering everything." Harry blinked at her, unsure whether to laugh or ask what in Merlin's name a Raxbird was. Before he could decide, Luna offered him some of her raw meat. "Would you like to feed them? They can sense kindness." Harry hesitantly took a piece and held it out to the nearest Thestral, which approached with surprising grace for something so skeletal. Its eyes, milky white and pupil-less, regarded him without judgment as it gently took the offering from his palm. "My mum died when I was 9, Luna said conversationally, watching the Thestrals. "She was quite an extraordinary witch, but she did like to experiment. One of her spells went rather badly wrong." Harry was stunned by her matter-of-factness. Most people tiptoed around death, especially around him lately. I'm sorry, he said, meaning it. Yes, it was quite horrible, Luna nodded. I still feel very sad about it sometimes. But I've still got Dad. They stood feeding the Thestrals in comfortable silence as the sun crept higher. Most people don't like talking about death, Harry found himself saying. They're afraid of it, I expect, Luna replied thoughtfully. But it's not like we won't all experience it eventually. Pretending something doesn't exist doesn't make it go away, does it? Harry thought of the Ministry and Fudge and their desperate denial of Voldemort's return. No, he said firmly. It really doesn't. Luna smiled at him, and Harry realized it was the first genuine conversation he'd had in months that didn't involve people treating him like he was either delusional or made of glass. I should probably go get properly dressed, Luna said, dusting her hands off. The Nargles have been stealing my shoes again, but I'm hoping they'll turn up before breakfast. Before Harry could ask what Nargles were, she had drifted away toward the castle, leaving him wondering if he'd imagined the entire conversation. She's in Ravenclaw, but they call her Loony Lovegood, Hermione whispered later that day in the Great Hall when Harry pointed Luna out. She has some unusual beliefs. Ron snorted. That's putting it mildly. Dad knows her father, runs that ridiculous magazine The Quibbler. Complete nutters, the lot of them. Harry watched Luna reading her upside-down magazine, apparently oblivious to the sniggers from her housemates. Something about their dismissal of her bothered him, but he didn't have time to examine why as Angelina was suddenly hovering over him, demanding to know his detention schedule for Quidditch practice planning. The next few weeks passed in a blur of detentions with Umbridge, the forming of their secret defense group, and the constant throbbing pain in his hand where, I must not tell lies, was being carved into his flesh. Harry barely saw Luna except in passing until the first meeting of what would become Dumbledore's army in the Hog's Head. She arrived with Ginny, that same dreamy expression on her face, and volunteered that her father was quite supportive of any movement to bring down Fudge, because the minister was apparently breeding an army of heliopaths. Harry had to bite back a smile at Hermione's exasperated expression. It wasn't until the first proper DA meeting in the Room of Requirement that Harry really noticed Luna again. While everyone else was struggling with the disarming charm, frustrated by their slow progress, Luna approached the spell with serene concentration. You're doing it wrong, Harry heard her tell Zacharias Smith, who'd been loudly complaining about the simplicity of the spell while failing to execute it properly. You're too focused on the end result and not the feeling behind it. What are you on about, Loony? Zacharias sneered. Luna, unfazed, demonstrated. Her disarming charm wasn't the most powerful in the room, but it was consistent, her wand movements fluid instead of forceful. It's like dancing with someone, she explained. You have to feel the connection between your magic and theirs before you can properly direct it. Zacharias rolled his eyes, but Harry found himself intrigued. He'd never thought about spellcasting that way before. Show me again, he asked, approaching Luna. She looked surprised but pleased. Of course, Harry. As Luna demonstrated, Harry watched her technique with new eyes. While everyone else was trying to muscle through their spells with sheer force of will, Luna moved her wand like she was following music only she could hear. Try it, she encouraged. Don't think about making the spell work. Think about the flow of magic between you and your target. Harry raised his wand, trying to adopt Luna's mindset. Expelliarmus. The spell worked as it always did for him, but something felt different, smoother, more controlled. That was lovely, Luna beamed. Your magic has a very bright signature, did you know? Like sunshine through stained glass. Before Harry could ask what she meant, Neville's misdirected spell sent a book flying past their heads, and Harry was pulled away to help. But as he circulated around the room for the rest of the session, he found himself repeatedly glancing back at Luna, who was now patiently helping Neville with the same gentle guidance she'd offered Harry. After the meeting, as everyone filed out in their carefully planned groups, Harry noticed Luna lingering behind. Everything okay? He asked. Oh yes, she said airily. I'm just waiting a moment. The corridors near Ravenclaw Tower tend to have Raxbird infestations this time of year, and I've forgotten my spectrospecs. Harry had no idea what spectrospecs were but found himself oddly reluctant to leave her alone. I could walk with you, he offered. Just to be safe. With Umbridge patrolling. Luna smiled. That would be nice. Though I'm quite good at avoiding people when necessary. As they walked through the darkened corridors, Harry was conscious of the strange picture they must make, him with his perpetually messy hair and her with her butterbeer cork necklace and radish earrings. I liked what you said, Harry found himself saying. About magic being like dancing with someone. Luna nodded thoughtfully. Daddy says all magic is really just conversations between different types of energy. Most people shout at their spells, but you don't need to shout at friends, do you? Harry considered this. I never thought about it that way. Most people don't, Luna said without judgment. They're too busy thinking about what they want magic to do for them, rather than with them. They reached the entrance to Ravenclaw Tower, marked by a door with an eagle knocker. Thank you for teaching us, Harry, Luna said, turning to face him. It's like having friends. The simple honesty in her statement hit Harry harder than he expected. We are friends, Luna. Her smile brightened the dim corridor. That's nice. I haven't had many before. Good night, Harry Potter. As she disappeared behind the Ravenclaw door, Harry felt strangely lighter, despite everything else weighing on him. The DA meetings became the highlight of Harry's increasingly grim weeks. While Umbridge tightened her hold on the school and his scar burned with increasing frequency, the hours spent in the room of requirement felt like the only time he could breathe. He found himself looking forward to Luna's unusual insights during their sessions. While Ron and Hermione were his best friends, there was something refreshing about Luna's perspective that cut through the noise in his head. During one meeting focused on shield charms, Harry noticed Luna was struggling more than usual, her normally fluid movements stuttering. Everything okay? He asked, coming to stand beside her as the others practiced. Luna's normally dreamy expression was clouded. My shoes have gone missing again, she said. And my charms essay, which was quite good actually. I suspect Nargles, but it might have been some of my housemates. Harry frowned. Your housemates are taking your things. Oh, they think it's funny, Luna shrugged, but Harry caught a flash of hurt in her eyes. It's all just a bit of fun, hiding Luna's things and watching her look for them. Something hot and angry unfurled in Harry's chest. That's not fun, that's bullying. Luna looked genuinely surprised. Is it? I thought perhaps it was just how people make friends sometimes. I'm not very good at understanding these things. The simple statement, delivered without self-pity, made Harry's throat tight. He remembered all too well what it was like to be the weird kid, the one others laughed at rather than with. It's not you who doesn't understand, Luna. It's them. He hesitated, then asked, would you like help looking for your things after we're done here? Luna's eyes widened slightly. You do that? Of course, Harry said firmly. That's what friends are for. After the DA meeting concluded, Harry told Ron and Hermione to go ahead without him. He caught their curious looks as he stayed behind with Luna, but for once, he didn't care what anyone thought. Luna led him through the castle with surprising stealth, avoiding prefects and inquisitorial squad members with an uncanny knack for choosing the right moment to move. They eventually reached a corridor near Ravenclaw Tower where several suits of armor stood in niches. They often put things inside the armor, Luna explained, approaching the first one. The house elves don't clean inside them as often. Sure enough, when they checked, they found one of Luna's shoes inside the helmet of the third suit of armor. Her charms essay was crumpled inside a gauntlet of the next one. How long has this been going on? Harry asked as they continued searching. Since my first year, Luna replied matter-of-factly. It got worse after I started talking about the Crumplehorn Snorkack expedition Daddy and I took over the summer. Harry helped Luna extract a sock from another armor piece. What's a Crumplehorn Snorkack? Instead of the dismissive tone Hermione would have used or the mockery he'd heard from others, Harry asked with genuine curiosity. Luna's face lit up. "They're very shy creatures that live in Sweden. Daddy and I have been trying to find one for years. We almost did last summer. We found horn marks on a tree that couldn't have been made by anything else." As they continued searching, Luna told him about the expedition, her voice growing more animated than he'd ever heard it. Harry found himself enjoying her enthusiasm, even if he wasn't entirely convinced Snorkax existed. By the time they'd recovered most of Luna's missing items, though one sock remained elusive, Harry had heard about Nargles, Raxperts, Blibbering Humdingers, and a dozen other creatures he'd never find in his Care of Magical Creatures textbook. "Thank you, Harry," Luna said sincerely as they prepared to part ways. "This would have taken me much longer alone." "Next time someone takes your things, tell me," Harry said, surprising himself with his vehemence. "It's not right, Luna." She tilted her head, studying him. "You're angry on my behalf. That's a very friendly thing to do." "Yeah, well," Harry shrugged, suddenly embarrassed. "Like I said, we're friends." Luna nodded solemnly. "I think so too. Your head is much clearer now, you know. Far fewer Raxperts than before." Harry wasn't sure why, but this assessment pleased him enormously. When the Christmas holidays approached, Harry was surprised to learn that Luna was staying at Hogwarts. "Daddy's in Norway, searching for evidence of wizard involvement in ancient Viking settlements," she explained when he asked. "He thinks they may have used early forms of broomsticks enchanted to look like dragons at the front of their ships." With Ron and Hermione going home, and the nightmare about Mr. Weasley leaving him shaken, Harry found himself seeking out Luna's company more often. Her perspective on his vision was refreshingly direct. "If you saw it happening, and Mr. Weasley was actually attacked just as you saw, then it doesn't really matter whether it was in your head or not, does it?" she said as they sat in a window alcove overlooking the snow-covered grounds. "The outcome was real." Harry stared at her. "That's actually really helpful." Luna nodded. "People put too much emphasis on what's real according to what everyone else sees. But perception creates reality, doesn't it? If you perceive something strongly enough to act on it and save someone's life, I'd say that perception matters more than whether others would call it real." It was exactly what Harry needed to hear, not questioning his sanity or fretting about Voldemort possessing him, but simply accepting what happened and focusing on the outcome. Their conversations over the nearly empty Christmas break ranged from the serious to the bizarre. Luna told him about her mother's experimental spell work, and Harry found himself opening up about Sirius and the weight of being the boy who lived. Luna never looked at his scar when they talked, which Harry found oddly liberating. On Christmas Day, Harry was surprised to receive a small package delivered by an unfamiliar owl. Inside was a handmade charm of twisted wire that vaguely resembled a star, or perhaps a radish, he wasn't entirely sure. The note read, "For keeping Raxperts away. Happy Christmas, Harry." Harry hung it by his bed, ignoring Ron's puzzled look when he returned. Strangely enough, his nightmares were less frequent in the weeks that followed. He told himself it was coincidence, but part of him wondered if there might be something to Luna's creatures after all. As the term progressed and Umbridge's tyranny grew, the DA became more important than ever. Harry noticed that Luna was one of the quickest to master the Patronus charm when they began practicing it. Her Patronus, a hare, bounded around the room of requirement with joyful energy that matched the dreamy smile on Luna's face. "What memory did you use?" Harry asked her, impressed by her success when many others were struggling. "Oh, I didn't use a memory," Luna said, watching her silver hair hop around Cho's swan. "I used a feeling." Harry frowned. "But the spell requires a happy memory. Does it?" "I think it requires happiness, not necessarily a memory of happiness." She demonstrated again, and her hair burst forth even more brightly than before. "I just think about how it feels to have friends now. It's not a specific memory, just the feeling of belonging somewhere." Harry tried her approach, focusing on the feeling of connection he'd found in the DA rather than any specific memory. His stag erupted from his wand with unexpected force, galloping alongside Luna's hair in a loop around the room. See? Luna beamed. Magic responds to intention and emotion more than rigid thinking. From then on, Harry found himself incorporating Luna's perspective into his teaching, encouraging DA members to feel their magic rather than just mechanically perform it. The results were remarkable. Neville especially made tremendous progress once he stopped overthinking every spell. But their fragile haven couldn't last forever. When Umbridge and her inquisitorial squad burst into the room of requirement, chaos erupted. Harry was focused on getting everyone out safely, but in the confusion, he spotted Draco Malfoy cornering Luna. Without thinking, Harry changed direction, racing toward them. Malfoy had Luna's wand and was taunting her, holding it just out of reach. "What's wrong, Loony? Can't call your imaginary creatures to help you now?" Before Malfoy could react, Harry's disarming charm hit him squarely in the chest. His wand, and Luna's, flew into Harry's waiting hand as Malfoy stumbled backward. "Run!" Harry shouted, tossing Luna her wand. They sprinted down the corridor together, taking a hidden passage Harry knew led toward the kitchens. They flattened themselves against the wall as Filch hobbled past, Mrs. Norris prowling at his heels. "Thank you," Luna whispered once the danger had passed, her breath coming in quick gasps. "That was very brave." "You would have done the same," Harry said with certainty. Luna looked thoughtful. "Yes, I would have. Though perhaps with more dirigible plums involved." Despite the dire situation, Harry found himself laughing. Luna had that effect on him, finding light in even the darkest moments. They managed to avoid capture that night, but Dumbledore's subsequent departure and Umbridge's installation as headmistress cast a pall over the entire school. The DA was effectively disbanded, though several members still practiced in secret, smaller groups meeting irregularly. Harry, overwhelmed by OWLs and the increasing pain from his scar, saw Luna less frequently. But whenever they did cross paths, her serene presence acted like a balm to his frayed nerves. "You look terrible," she told him bluntly one evening when they ran into each other near the library. "Your head is absolutely swarming with rackspurts. Have you been sleeping at all?" "Not really," Harry admitted. The visions of the Department of Mysteries corridor were growing more frequent and intense. Luna studied him with those penetrating silver eyes. "Come with me," she said, taking his hand without hesitation. She led him to a small courtyard Harry had never particularly noticed before. It was quiet, with a stone bench beneath an ancient oak tree. "Sit," Luna instructed, and when Harry complied, she sat cross-legged on the ground in front of him. "Now close your eyes." Too exhausted to argue, Harry obeyed. "Breathe with me," Luna said softly. "In through your nose, hold, out through your mouth." Harry followed her guidance, matching his breathing to hers. "Imagine all the thoughts in your head as leaves on a stream," Luna continued, her voice gentle but firm. "Don't try to grab them or push them away. Just watch them float past." For several minutes, they sat in silence as Harry practiced the visualization. Surprisingly, it helped. The constant buzz of anxiety and the phantom pain in his scar receded slightly. "My mother taught me this," Luna explained when Harry opened his eyes. When her experiments would get too chaotic in her mind, this would help her find clarity. "It works," Harry said, genuinely surprised. "Of course it works," Luna replied matter-of-factly. "Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't real or effective." Harry looked at her then, really looked at her, the long blonde hair, the wand tucked behind her ear for safekeeping, the radish earrings, the permanently surprised expression. Luna Lovegood, who everyone dismissed as loony, who saw thestrals and believed in creatures no one else had ever documented, who approached magic as a conversation rather than a tool. "You're brilliant, you know that," he said suddenly. Luna blinked, looking genuinely surprised for once. "That's a very nice thing to say, Harry Potter." "I think you're quite brilliant too," even with all the experts. When the vision of Sirius being tortured hit Harry during his history of magic OWL, everything else flew from his mind. The desperate plan to reach the Department of Mysteries, the confrontation with Umbridge, the wild ride on Thestrals, it all passed in a blur of panic and determination. Luna had volunteered to come without hesitation. "Friends help each other," she'd said simply when Harry protested that it wasn't her fight. Now, as they raced through the eerily lit corridors of the Department of Mysteries, Harry was grateful for her presence. Where everyone else was visibly terrified, Luna maintained an air of curious detachment, as though exploring strange magical architecture was a perfectly reasonable weekend activity. When they reached the room with the archway, the veil, Harry noticed Luna was the only one besides him who could hear the voices whispering from beyond. "What do you think it is?" he asked her quietly while the others examined the mysterious orbs in the next room. "A doorway, I expect," Luna replied, her eyes fixed on the gently fluttering curtain. "Though I don't think we're meant to go through it yet." "Yet? Everyone does eventually, don't they?" Luna said. "But only when it's time." The sudden appearance of Death Eaters cut their conversation short. As spells flew and chaos erupted, Harry lost track of Luna in the melee. He caught glimpses of her, ducking a curse here, firing back there, her face set in uncharacteristic concentration. By the time the Order members arrived, Harry was desperate to ensure everyone was safe. He counted heads frantically: Ron, delirious from the brain attack; Hermione, unconscious; Ginny, injured but standing; Neville, bloodied but determined. "Where's Luna?" he shouted to Neville over the din of battle. "Over there." Neville pointed toward a corner where Luna was dueling alongside Tonks, her movements as fluid as when she cast in DA meetings, almost as though she were dancing rather than fighting for her life. Relief flooded Harry, only to be replaced by horror as Sirius fell through the veil minutes later. The aftermath was a blur of grief and rage, chasing Bellatrix, confronting Voldemort, Dumbledore's arrival, and finally the Hollow return to Hogwarts. Harry retreated into himself, avoiding everyone's sympathy and concerned looks. It wasn't until the final day before summer break that Luna found him sitting alone by the lake, staring sightlessly at the water. She didn't speak, just sat beside him and placed a hand on his arm. They remained that way for several minutes before Harry broke the silence. "Everyone keeps saying he's gone," Harry said, his voice rough. "Like he just went on holiday or something." Luna nodded. "People are uncomfortable with saying, dead. They think it makes it more final." "It is final," Harry said bitterly. "He's never coming back. He's dead because of me." "He's dead because of Bellatrix Lestrange and Voldemort," Luna corrected gently but firmly. "And yes, he's gone beyond the veil, but that doesn't mean he's gone completely." Harry looked at her, anger flaring. "Don't tell me he's watching over me or some rubbish like that." "I wasn't going to," Luna said. "I was going to say that the people we love become part of us. Not metaphorically, literally. The connections we form actually change the structure of our brains. So in a very real sense, Sirius lives on in you, in the ways he changed how you think and feel and act." Harry stared at her, the anger draining away as suddenly as it had come. That actually makes sense." Luna smiled slightly. "Death isn't a punishment or an ending. It's just a different form of existence. The love doesn't disappear just because the person does." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, smooth stone with a hole through the middle. "This is for you," she said, placing it in his palm. "It's a seeing stone. If you look through it at twilight, sometimes you can glimpse things that exist between worlds." Harry closed his fingers around the stone, the solid weight of it somehow comforting. "I don't know if I believe that," he admitted. Luna shrugged. "Belief isn't required for something to be true. But it helps us notice the truth when it presents itself." They sat in companionable silence as the sun began to set over the lake, casting golden light across the water. "I'm glad you were there," Harry said finally. "At the Department of Mysteries. I'm glad you're here now." Luna leaned her head against his shoulder, a gesture so natural it surprised him. I'm glad too, Harry Potter. For the first time since Sirius fell through the veil, Harry felt the knot in his chest loosen slightly. Luna didn't try to fix his grief or distract him from it. She simply acknowledged it and sat with him in it, her presence a quiet reminder that he wasn't alone. As they watched the giant squid break the surface of the lake, tentacles gleaming in the fading light, Harry found himself wondering what the coming year would bring, with Voldemort now publicly acknowledged, with the wizarding world on the brink of war. Whatever it was, he was grateful to know Luna Lovegood would be part of it, seeing Thestrals and Raxperts and perhaps things about Harry himself that no one else could see. Chapter 2, Beyond the Veil. The summer at Privet Drive was even worse than usual, and that was saying something. Harry spent most days staring at his bedroom ceiling, replaying Sirius's death on mental repeat. The Dursleys avoided him more than ever, which suited him fine. His nightmares had him shouting in his sleep, and Uncle Vernon's threats about that racket had become background noise. Hedwig was his lifeline. She brought letters from his friends that piled up mostly unopened on his desk, well-meaning but hollow reassurances from Hermione, awkward attempts at distraction from Ron. Harry couldn't bring himself to respond to most of them. What was he supposed to say? Thanks, I'm fine watching my godfather die over and over in my dreams. But when Hedwig arrived one morning with a peculiar-looking envelope made from what appeared to be homemade paper flecked with flower petals, Harry actually sat up in bed. He recognized Luna's handwriting immediately, a loopy, whimsical script that somehow managed to look both childlike and elegant. The envelope was sealed with blue wax stamped with what looked like a rabbit impression. Harry broke the seal and pulled out several pages covered in the same distinctive handwriting, along with what appeared to be a pressed flower and a small, glittering beetle wing. Dear Harry, I hope this letter finds you well, though I suspect the Raxperts are particularly bad where you're staying. Enclosed is a dried gertie-root and a lacewing shimmer, together they help repel negative energy. Place them under your pillow when the memories feel too heavy. Daddy and I are investigating reports of heliopath activity in the West Country. There have been several mysterious fires, and while the Ministry is blaming standard magical accidents, we believe Fudge's secret army may be involved. Or possibly Death Eaters, I suppose, though their tactics usually involve the dark mark rather than subtlety. I've been thinking about Sirius and the Veil. Did you know that in ancient Egypt, wizards built similar archways in their tombs? They believed they were two-way communication points with the afterlife. The Department of Mystery's Veil is likely based on those designs, though considerably older. I found several references in Daddy's library that suggest it predates the Ministry itself. I'm not telling you this to upset you, but because knowledge is often more helpful than ignorance when dealing with grief. At least, that's what I found after my mother died. Write if you'd like to. If not, that's okay too. Sometimes silence is necessary. Your friend, Luna. Harry read the letter 3 times. Unlike everyone else's careful avoidance of mentioning Sirius or the Department of Mysteries, Luna addressed it head-on. No platitudes, no awkward sympathy, just information and straightforward acknowledgement. He found himself reaching for a quill before he even realized he'd decided to respond. Luna, thanks for your letter. I've put the gertie-root and wing under my pillow. Not sure if it's working yet, but I appreciate the thought. Those fires in the West Country, be careful. I don't think they're heliopaths or accidents. Voldemort's back publicly now, and he's not going to stay quiet for long. I didn't know that about the Veil. Do the Egyptian records say anything about people coming back through those archways? I keep thinking maybe Sirius is just stuck somewhere. Not gone completely. I know that's probably stupid. Harry. He sent Hedwig off with the response, surprised to realize he was actually looking forward to Luna's reply. It came 3 days later, along with a small package. Dear Harry, you're right about the fires, they're definitely not accidental. We spotted several dark-robed figures disapparating from the latest one, and Daddy got a photograph that shows the edge of what might be a Death Eater mask. He's publishing it in the next Quibbler, though the prophet continues to downplay the incidents despite supposedly acknowledging Voldemort's return. About the veil, the ancient Egyptian wizards did record instances of voices and even partial apparitions coming back through their archways, but never a complete return. I'm sorry, Harry. I don't think it's stupid to hope, though. Hope is never stupid, even when it's painful. I've sent you something that might help with the nightmares. It's a dream catcher made with dirigible plum twine and thestral hair, willingly given, they shed it naturally. Hang it by your window. Your friend, Luna P.S. Did you know your letters have a distinctive magical signature? The parchment practically hums with it. It's quite lovely, like sunshine. Harry hung the dream catcher by his window that night. It was an odd-looking thing, not like the commercial ones he'd seen in Muggle shops. This one had an irregular shape with colored beads and what looked like small radishes dangling from it. The center was woven with silver-white strands that had to be the thestral hair Luna mentioned. Strangely enough, he slept better that night than he had since returning to Privet Drive. His dreams still featured Sirius falling through the veil, but instead of waking in a cold sweat, the dream shifted into memories of Sirius laughing at Grimmauld Place, telling stories about Harry's father. Harry's reply was considerably longer than his first letter. Over the next weeks, their correspondence became the one thing Harry looked forward to. Luna's letters were like nothing he'd ever read, jumping from profound observations about grief and magic to bizarre tangents about creatures Harry was certain couldn't exist, then back to surprisingly insightful analysis of prophet news stories that revealed what was really happening in the wizarding world. Harry found himself opening up to her in ways he couldn't with Ron and Hermione. Luna never told him to focus on something else or try to move on. She simply accepted his grief as part of him, neither dismissing it nor defining him by it. By the time Dumbledore arrived to take him to the Burrow, Harry had a small collection of Luna's odd magical objects and a stack of letters tied with string hidden in his trunk. "So you've been writing to Loony Lovegood all summer?" Ron asked, eyebrows raised nearly to his hairline when Harry mentioned it at breakfast his second day at the Burrow. "Don't call her that," Harry said automatically, reaching for more toast. Ron held up his hands. "Sorry, mate. Luna, I mean. Just surprised, is all. Didn't think you two were that close. We weren't, before. But she..." Harry struggled to explain. "She gets it. About Sirius. About everything." Ginny, who'd been quietly eating her porridge, looked up with interest. "Luna's got her own way of seeing things. After my first year, when everyone was tiptoeing around me because of the whole chamber business, Luna just asked me straight out what it was like being possessed by you-know-who." "That's horrible!" Hermione exclaimed, joining them at the table in time to hear Ginny's comment. "Actually, it wasn't," Ginny said thoughtfully. "Everyone else was pretending nothing had happened, which just made me feel like I was going mental on top of everything else. Luna made it seem like it was just another thing that could happen to a person, not some shameful secret." Harry nodded, grateful for Ginny's understanding. "Exactly. She doesn't tiptoe around stuff." "Well, I think it's nice you found someone to talk to," Hermione said carefully, though Harry could tell from her expression that she had reservations about Luna's influence. "Just, some of her ideas are a bit mental," Ron supplied. "Unscientific," Hermione corrected with a glare at Ron. Harry shrugged. "Maybe. But her dreamcatcher actually helped with my nightmares, even if thestral hair and dirigible plum sound mad to you." Ron and Hermione exchanged a look that Harry pretended not to notice. He changed the subject to Quidditch, and the moment passed, but he couldn't help feeling a flicker of annoyance at their dismissal of Luna. Platform 9 3/4 was chaotic as always, but with an undercurrent of tension Harry hadn't felt before. Parents hugged their children tighter, having whispered conversations right up until the train whistle blew. Aurors patrolled the platform, their attempts to look casual failing miserably. Harry scanned the crowd as he followed Ron and Hermione toward the train, looking for a flash of blonde hair or radish earrings. He'd written to Luna saying he'd try to find her on the platform, but the press of anxious families made it nearly impossible to spot anyone. Harry Potter. He turned to see Luna weaving through the crowd, wearing what appeared to be a normal Hogwarts robe but with a necklace of butterbeer corks and her wand stuck behind her ear as usual. Her long blonde hair was braided with what looked like small flowers and twine. "Hi, Luna," he said, surprised by how pleased he was to see her. She stopped in front of him, her large silvery eyes studying his face. "You look better." "Still some rackspurts, but not nearly as many as I expected." Before Harry could respond, Luna had stepped forward and hugged him. It was so unexpected that Harry froze for a moment before awkwardly returning the embrace. He caught Ron's smirk and Hermione's raised eyebrows over Luna's shoulder. "Thanks for the letters," Harry said when she released him. "They really helped." Luna smiled. "I'm glad. Writing to you helped me too. Daddy said I was much less distracted this summer, even when we were tracking the heliopath migrations." The train whistle blew again, and they hurried to board. Luna drifted off to find a compartment while Harry, Ron, and Hermione headed to the prefect's carriage for instructions. "So, you and Luna love good, huh?" Ron asked with a knowing grin once Hermione was out of earshot. "What?" "No, we're just friends," Harry said quickly. "Sure, mate. Friends who write all summer and hug on platforms and make you blush like that." "I'm not blushing," Harry insisted, though his face felt warm. "It's just hot in here." Ron laughed. "Whatever you say. Just know that if you do fancy Luna, you'll never have a dull moment." "Shut up," Harry muttered, but found himself wondering if there was any truth to what Ron was suggesting. Did he fancy Luna? He hadn't really thought about her that way. She was just Luna. Different from anyone he'd ever met, but in a good way. Refreshing. Honest. The thought followed him through the start-of-term feast, where he found himself glancing toward the Ravenclaw table more often than necessary, watching Luna read her upside-down magazine while absently twirling her fork through her pudding. The first month back at Hogwarts passed in a blur of increasingly difficult classes, Quidditch practice, and private lessons with Dumbledore. Harry saw Luna mostly in passing, a wave in the hallway, a brief chat after a DA meeting, now official, with Dumbledore's reluctant blessing and Professor McGonagall's oversight. It was after one such meeting in late October that Luna approached him as the others filed out. "You're working too hard," she said without preamble. Harry, who'd been gathering the cushions they used for stunning practice, looked up in surprise. "What? Your magical aura is all stretched thin, like worn fabric." Luna gestured vaguely around his head. "It happens when wizards push themselves too much without proper rest." Harry rubbed his eyes beneath his glasses. He had been exhausted lately, between Newt-level classes, Quidditch captaincy, Dumbledore's private lessons about Voldemort's past, and his growing obsession with what Malfoy was up to. "I'm fine," he said automatically. Luna tilted her head. "You're lying, but that's okay. Everyone does sometimes." She reached into her bag and pulled out what looked like a small, lumpy pillow. "Put this under your regular pillow. It's stuffed with lavender and valerian. The magic in them will help your own magic replenish while you sleep." Harry took the pillow, surprised by the gesture. "Thanks, Luna." "You're welcome." She hesitated, then added, "I found a place in the castle I think you'd like. Would you like to see it? It might help you relax." Harry glanced at his watch. It was nearly curfew, but his curiosity was piqued. "Sure. Where is it?" Luna smiled mysteriously. "Follow me." She led him through corridors and up staircases, taking turns Harry hadn't known existed, until they reached what appeared to be a dead end on the 7th floor, but not near the room of requirement. Luna tapped her wand on a particular stone in a complex pattern and whispered something Harry couldn't catch. The wall shimmered and revealed a narrow doorway. "How did you?" Harry began. "Ravenclaw secrets," Luna said with a wink. "We're not all just about books, you know. They stepped through into a small, circular room with a domed ceiling. Harry gasped as he looked up. The ceiling appeared to be open to the night sky, stars twinkling above them, though he knew they must still be inside the castle. "It's an observatory," Luna explained. "One of the original ones, before they built the astronomy tower. Most people have forgotten it exists." The room contained a few ancient-looking armchairs and a large, ornate telescope that appeared to be made of brass and some iridescent material Harry didn't recognize. "The telescope is calibrated to see things most others can't," Luna said, running her fingers along the strange material. "Magical celestial phenomena, not just stars and planets." Harry approached the telescope curiously. "What kind of phenomena?" "Star sprites, lunar blisters, cosmic flutterwings." Luna's voice took on that dreamy quality he'd come to associate with her more esoteric beliefs. "The paths magic takes through the universe." Harry peered through the eyepiece, not expecting to see anything unusual. To his shock, the night sky burst into view with streams of colored light flowing between certain stars, pulsing and shifting like auroras. "Whoa," he breathed. "What are those lights?" "Ley lines," Luna said, leaning close to adjust a dial on the telescope. "Magic flows through space just like it flows through the earth. The founders knew that. It's why Hogwarts was built where it was, at an intersection point." Harry continued watching, mesmerized by the rivers of light. "It's beautiful." "Yes," Luna agreed. "Most beautiful things are ignored because people are looking for something else." Harry pulled back from the telescope to find Luna watching him with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. For the first time, he noticed that her eyes weren't just silver gray, they had flecks of blue near the pupils, like tiny captured skies. "Thanks for showing me this," he said, suddenly aware of how close they were standing in the small room. Luna smiled. "I thought you might appreciate it. Everyone needs a secret place where they can see beyond the ordinary." Harry found himself returning her smile. "Got any other secret places you can show me?" "Oh yes," Luna said seriously. "Quite a few. Hogwarts has many forgotten corners if you know how to look for them." They spent another hour in the observatory, Luna pointing out cosmic phenomena Harry had never dreamed existed, before reluctantly heading back to their respective dormitories before they were missed. As Harry slipped Luna's herbal pillow under his own that night, he found himself looking forward to discovering more of Hogwarts' secrets with her. Over the next few weeks, Luna showed Harry hidden aspects of the castle he'd never noticed despite his extensive nighttime wanderings. A staircase that only appeared during waning gibbous moons, leading to a small garden where starlight-sensitive plants grew. A corridor where portraits of long-forgotten wizards told stories of Hogwarts' earliest days, speaking in an archaic version of English that Luna somehow understood. During a Hogsmeade weekend in November, Luna led him away from the main village to a small, bubbling spring half hidden in the woods. The original reason for Hogsmeade's location, she explained, kneeling beside the clear water. "It's a natural magical spring. The water has properties that enhance certain potions if collected under the right conditions." Harry watched as she carefully filled a small crystal vial. "How do you know all these things, Luna?" She looked up, her expression thoughtful. "I listen when places want to tell me their secrets. Most people are too busy talking to hear when the world is trying to speak to them." It was such a Luna-like answer that Harry couldn't help but smile. Yet as bizarre as her perspective seemed, he was beginning to understand it. Since he'd started spending time with her, he'd noticed things he'd overlooked before, the way certain corridors in Hogwarts felt different depending on the time of day, how some classrooms seemed to enhance particular types of magic. "What's that for?" he asked, nodding toward the vial of spring water. "Oh, I'm making essences for Professor Flitwick's advanced charms class. We're studying environmental effects on charm durability." Luna stoppered the vial and tucked it into her bag. "This water should make illumination charms last 3 times longer." Harry blinked. "Wait, you're in advanced charms? That's a 7th-year class." Luna nodded. "Professor Flitwick says I have an intuitive understanding of magical theory." I think it's because I don't try to make magic follow rules, I try to understand the patterns it naturally wants to follow. That's... Harry shook his head in wonder. You're really brilliant, aren't you? Luna looked genuinely surprised. Am I? I just see things differently. Most people think that makes me strange, not brilliant. Most people are idiots, Harry said firmly. Luna laughed, a bright, bubbling sound that reminded Harry of the spring. That's a very uncharitable view, Harry Potter. But thank you. They walked back toward Hogsmeade, the November air crisp and cold. Harry found himself walking closer to Luna than strictly necessary, their hands occasionally brushing. Want to get a butterbeer? He asked as they approached the Three Broomsticks. Luna glanced toward the crowded pub and hesitated. It's very busy. Harry followed her gaze and saw a group of Ravenclaws entering, including several girls he recognized as being particularly nasty to Luna. We could go to the Hog's Head instead, he suggested. It's usually empty. Luna brightened. I'd like that. Aberforth has the most fascinating goat stories if you get him talking. The Hog's Head was indeed nearly deserted. Aberforth grunted a greeting as they entered, his eyes lingering on Harry with that same unsettling familiarity Harry had noticed before. They settled at a corner table with butterbeers, and Luna somehow did get Aberforth talking about his goats, specifically a breeding program he claimed produced goats that could detect dark magic. People think they just eat anything, Aberforth growled, leaning on their table. But a properly trained goat can sense curses better than those fancy probity probes the Ministry uses. Harry wasn't sure whether to believe him, but Luna asked such earnest, specific questions that Aberforth kept talking for nearly 20 minutes before shuffling back behind the bar. Are goat detection spells really a thing? Harry asked when they were alone again. Luna stirred her butterbeer thoughtfully. The principle is sound. Animals often perceive magical disturbances humans can't detect without tools. Measles are already recognized for this ability, so why not goats? Put that way, it didn't sound quite so far-fetched. Harry was beginning to realize that many of Luna's crazy beliefs contained kernels of legitimate magical theory, just approached from unconventional angles. They were halfway through their second butterbeers when the pub door swung open, admitting a gust of cold air and a group of seventh-year Ravenclaws, including some of the same girls Harry had noticed earlier. Oh look, it's Loony, one of them said loudly as they approached the bar. Boring poor Potter with tales of Crumplehorn Snorkax, are you? Luna's expression didn't change, but Harry saw her shoulders tense slightly. Actually, Harry said clearly, Luna was just explaining advanced magical theory in a way that makes more sense than most of our professors manage. The girl, Marietta Edgecombe, Harry realized, still bearing faint traces of Hermione's sneak jinx from the previous year, flushed an ugly red. Careful, Potter, she sneered. Loony's craziness might be catching. Next thing you know, you'll be wearing radish earrings and talking to invisible creatures. Harry stood up so quickly his chair scraped loudly against the floor. You know what, Edgecombe? I'd rather talk to invisible creatures than be a visible traitor any day. The pub went silent. Marietta's hand flew to her forehead, where the faint outline of sneak was still visible despite her heavy makeup. Come on, she muttered to her friends. Let's go somewhere without the freak show. They left without ordering, the door slamming behind them. Harry sat back down, his heart pounding with anger. Sorry about that, he said to Luna. She was looking at him with an odd expression. You didn't have to defend me. Yes, I did, Harry said firmly. They had no right to talk to you like that. People have been saying much worse things about me for years, Luna pointed out. That doesn't make it okay. Harry's voice rose, and he made an effort to lower it. You're worth 10 of Marietta Edgecombe. 100. Luna reached across the table and took his hand. Thank you, Harry. She tilted her head, studying him. You're very angry on my behalf. Of course I am. You're my friend. But even as he said it, Harry knew that didn't fully explain the protective fury he'd felt. Friends didn't make his stomach flip when they held his hand the way Luna was doing now. Luna seemed to sense his confusion. She squeezed his hand once and then released it, returning to her butterbeer as though nothing unusual had happened. "Tell me about the last Quidditch practice," she said. "I heard the Wimbleslaw formation you tried nearly sent Demelza Robbins into the Whomping Willow." Harry let her change the subject, but the warmth of her hand lingered on his long after they'd finished their drinks and headed back to the castle. December arrived with a blanket of snow and a flurry of activity as the term neared its end. Between increased homework, Quidditch, and Dumbledore's increasingly disturbing lessons about Voldemort's past, Harry had little free time. But he found himself seeking out Luna whenever possible, study sessions in the library, walks around the frozen lake, even helping her search for her repeatedly stolen possessions. After discovering her shoes hidden in a suit of armor for the third time that month, Harry's patience with Luna's tormentors snapped. "This ends now," he said, handing her the recovered ballet flats. Luna slipped them on with a shrug. "It always does, until the next time." "No, I mean it ends permanently." Harry's jaw was set in a way that would have warned Ron and Hermione he was about to do something reckless. "Who's the main culprit?" Luna hesitated. "It doesn't matter, Harry. It matters to me." After a moment, she sighed. "Marietta and her friends, mostly. And a sixth year named Rebecca Arnett." But Harry was already marching toward the Great Hall, where dinner was underway. Luna hurried after him, catching his arm. "What are you going to do?" she asked, a note of worry in her voice. "Something I should have done a long time ago," Harry replied grimly. He strode into the Great Hall, ignoring the heads that turned his way, and walked directly to the Ravenclaw table. He stopped behind Marietta Edgecombe and Rebecca Arnett, who were sitting together near the center of the table. "Marietta," he said loudly enough for nearby students to hear. "Rebecca. And anyone else who thinks it's funny to steal Luna's things, it stops now." The Great Hall quieted as people noticed Harry Potter confronting students at the Ravenclaw table. Marietta turned, her face reddening under her heavy makeup. "I don't know what you're talking about, Potter," she said coldly. "I'm talking about taking Luna's shoes, her homework, her books, all the petty, pathetic bullying you lot think makes you clever." Harry's voice carried in the increasingly silent hall. "It's not clever. It's cruel and cowardly." Rebecca Arnett's face twisted in a sneer. "Why do you care what happens to Loony?" Harry leaned forward, his voice dropping dangerously. "Her name is Luna. And I care because she's worth 100 of you. She fought alongside me against Death Eaters last year while you were busy betraying your classmates or hiding under your beds." From the corner of his eye, Harry could see Professor Flitwick moving toward them from the staff table, but he pressed on. "So here's what's going to happen. The bullying stops. Now. Or I start sharing exactly what kind of people you really are with everyone, including your families, future employers, and anyone else who might be interested." "Are you threatening us?" Marietta gasped. "I'm promising you consequences," Harry corrected. "Luna's too kind to stand up for herself this way, but I'm not. Remember who my friends are, the brightest witch of our age who gave you those marks on your forehead, the family who owns Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, a network of Aurors, and the editor of the Quibbler." He straightened up, aware that the entire hall was watching now. "Choose wisely." Professor Flitwick arrived at his elbow. "Mr. Potter, while I appreciate your concern for Miss Lovegood, perhaps this conversation would be better conducted in private?" Harry nodded stiffly. "Sorry, Professor. I've said what I needed to say." As he turned to leave, he caught sight of Luna standing near the entrance to the Great Hall, her expression unreadable. He walked toward her, suddenly uncertain whether she'd appreciate his public intervention or be mortified by it. But when he reached her, Luna simply took his hand and led him out into the entrance hall, away from the curious stares and whispers that had erupted in his wake. "You didn't have to do that," she said when they were alone. "I know I didn't have to. I wanted to. Harry ran a hand through his hair, suddenly feeling awkward. Are you angry? Luna considered this question with her typical thoroughness. No, she decided. I'm not angry. I'm surprised. No one's ever done anything like that for me before. Someone should have, Harry said fiercely. You don't deserve how they treat you. Luna studied him with those penetrating silver eyes. You really meant it, didn't you? What you said about me being worth 100 of them. Every word, Harry confirmed. Luna stepped closer, and before Harry could register what was happening, she rose on her tiptoes and kissed him lightly on the cheek. Thank you, Harry Potter, she whispered, her breath warm against his skin. Harry felt his face heat. You're, welcome. Luna stepped back, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Your head is completely clear of Raxperts now, she observed. Strong emotion tends to drive them away. And with that, she drifted off toward Ravenclaw Tower, leaving Harry standing in the entrance hall with his hand touching the spot where her lips had been, wondering when exactly Luna Lovegood had become so important to him. The fallout from Harry's confrontation was immediate. The stolen items mysteriously reappeared, and Luna reported that her dorm mates were suddenly being scrupulously polite. Professor Flitwick had apparently given his own stern lecture to Ravenclaw House about bullying, without mentioning Harry's intervention directly. More surprising to Harry was the reaction from his friends. That was brilliant, Ginny told him enthusiastically at breakfast the next day. About time someone stood up for Luna. Yeah, well done, mate, Ron agreed through a mouthful of toast. Though you could have given me a heads up, Fred and George would have sent some special products to help get the message across. Even Hermione, who normally disapproved of public confrontations, seemed supportive. It was a bit dramatic, she said, but sometimes that's what it takes to stop systemic bullying. And using your influence for something positive is actually quite responsible, Harry. The conversation might have ended there if Ginny hadn't added casually, so when did you realize you fancy Luna? Harry choked on his pumpkin juice. What? I mean, she's my friend. Oh, come off it, Ginny said, rolling her eyes. You don't march into the Great Hall and threaten an entire house for just a friend. I would for you lot, Harry protested weakly. Yeah, but you'd have done it ages ago, not after watching it happen for months, Ron pointed out. Plus, you get this soppy look on your face whenever she's mentioned. I do not. Harry insisted, but he could feel his face burning. Hermione patted his arm consolingly. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, Harry. Luna's unconventional, but she's also incredibly loyal and kind. Harry looked between his friends, surprised by their acceptance. You don't think it's weird? That I might, like Luna. Mate, you're the weird one, not her, Ron said frankly. Always have been. Makes sense you'd end up with someone equally bonkers. Ginny smacked her brother's arm. What Ron means is that you and Luna complement each other. She sees the world differently, and you need that perspective sometimes. Harry considered this. It was true that Luna's unique viewpoint had helped him process Sirius's death in a way nothing else had. And he enjoyed her company more than almost anyone else's lately, her lack of judgment, her surprising insights, her ability to find wonder in things others overlooked. I think I do fancy her, he admitted quietly. But I don't know if she feels the same way. Ginny snorted. She kissed you, didn't she? On the cheek. Luna doesn't do anything without meaning it, Ginny said confidently. Trust me on this one, Harry. The conversation shifted to the upcoming Quidditch match against Hufflepuff, but Harry's thoughts remained on Luna and the possibility that his feelings might be reciprocated. The opportunity to find out came sooner than Harry expected. The last Hogsmeade weekend before Christmas break found Harry, Ron, and Hermione trudging through thick snow toward the village, discussing holiday plans. Mum's expecting you for Christmas, of course, Ron was saying to Harry. Bill's bringing Fleur, so Mum's in a right state trying to make everything perfect while pretending she can't stand her. Harry nodded absently, his eyes scanning the groups of students ahead of them. He'd told Luna he'd meet her in the village, but they hadn't specified where. Looking for someone? Hermione asked innocently. No, Harry lied, then sighed at her knowing expression. Fine, yes. I told Luna I'd meet her today. Well, there she is, Ron said, pointing toward Scrivenshaft's quill shop, where Luna's distinctive blonde hair was visible through the window. Right. I'll, catch up with you two later. Harry said, already veering toward the shop. Take your time, Hermione called after him with a smile. Luna was examining a display of color-changing inks when Harry entered the shop, a blast of warm air greeting him after the cold outside. Hi, he said, suddenly feeling awkward as she turned to face him. Luna's face lit up. Harry. Look at these inks, this one changes color based on the writer's mood. I'm getting some for Daddy for Christmas. Harry moved closer to examine the small bottles of shimmering liquid. That's brilliant. How does it know what mood you're in? It's enchanted to respond to the magical aura around your hands as you write, Luna explained, selecting a bottle of deep blue ink that shifted through purples and greens as she held it. Our emotions affect our magical signature. They spent another 20 minutes in the shop while Luna made her selection, Harry content to listen to her explain the properties of various writing implements. When they finally stepped back into the snowy street, Luna slipped her purchase into her bag and looked at Harry expectantly. Where would you like to go next? She asked. Harry realized he hadn't actually planned anything. 3 broomsticks. Or we could try that tea shop, Madame Putafoot's. He immediately regretted suggesting the latter, remembering his disastrous date there with Cho. Luna wrinkled her nose. Madame Putafoot puts Flutterby extract in her tea to make couples feel artificially romantic. That's why everyone's always kissing in there. I'd rather go somewhere without emotional manipulation potions. Harry stared at her, then burst out laughing. Luna, you're amazing. 3 broomsticks it is. The pub was packed as usual, but they managed to find a small table in the back corner. Harry went to get butterbeers while Luna secured their seats. When he returned, carefully carrying the foaming tankards through the crowd, he found Luna creating what appeared to be a tiny snow scene on their table, complete with miniature trees and a frozen pond. That's incredible, Harry said, setting down their drinks. Where did you learn to do that? I made it up, Luna said, adding what looked like tiny ice skaters to her creation. It's just a variation on the glacius charm combined with a bit of transfiguration. Harry watched in fascination as the tiny figures began to move, skating graceful patterns on the miniature pond. You really are brilliant with magic, you know. Luna looked pleased. It's just a matter of asking the magic what it wants to do, rather than forcing it. They sipped their butterbeers and talked about their holiday plans, Harry going to the burrow, Luna and her father searching for ice-breathing foolgraths in the Scottish Highlands. They only appear during the winter solstice, Luna explained. Their breath can freeze objects in a way that preserves them indefinitely. Daddy thinks they might be related to the magic used in wizarding photographs, the way they capture a moment forever. As she spoke, Harry found himself noticing things he'd overlooked before, the way her eyes lit up when she was explaining something she was passionate about, the small dimple that appeared in her left cheek when she smiled, the graceful movements of her hands as she gestured. Harry. Luna's voice broke into his thoughts. You're staring. Sorry, he said, embarrassed at being caught. I was just thinking, well, I was wondering if... The door of the 3 broomsticks burst open, sending a blast of cold air through the pub. Harry glanced over automatically, then froze at the sight of Professor McGonagall, her expression grim as she scanned the room. Her eyes locked with Harry's, and she immediately started making her way toward them, weaving through the crowded tables with determination. Mr. Potter, Miss Lovegood, she said when she reached them, her voice tense. You need to return to the castle immediately. Harry felt his stomach drop. What's happened? McGonagall's lips thinned. Katie Bell has been cursed. Badly. She's been taken to St. Mungo's. She lowered her voice. It appears the item that cursed her was meant to be delivered to someone at Hogwarts. Harry's mind immediately jumped to Malfoy, who'd been acting suspiciously all term. Professor, I think, not here, McGonagall cut him off. Back to the castle, both of you. All students are being recalled. As they left the pub, Harry saw other professors and prefects spreading through the village, gathering students and directing them back toward Hogwarts. The festive atmosphere had evaporated, replaced by confused murmurs and worried faces. Luna took Harry's hand as they joined the stream of students heading back up the path to the castle, snow swirling around them as the wind picked up. It's starting, isn't it? She said quietly. The war. It's really coming to Hogwarts now. Harry squeezed her hand. I think it's been here all along. We just couldn't see it yet. Luna nodded, her expression solemn. Like Thestrals. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there, waiting for you to notice it. They walked hand in hand through the snow, the warmth of the 3 broomsticks and their interrupted conversation left behind, but something new growing between them in the face of the darkness ahead. The castle was in turmoil following Katie's cursing. Rumors flew about what had happened, each version more dramatic than the last. Harry tried to convince Dumbledore and McGonagall of Malfoy's involvement but was dismissed for lack of evidence. Security around the school increased. Filch scanned everyone entering the Great Hall with secrecy sensors, packages were inspected before being delivered, and prefects patrolled the corridors in pairs rather than alone. The Christmas holidays arrived as a welcome break from the tension. Harry spent the time at the Burrow, surrounded by the Weasley family's warmth, though the spectre of Mr. Weasley's attack the previous Christmas and Bill's facial scars from a werewolf attack cast shadows over the celebration. When they returned to Hogwarts in January, the castle felt different, colder, more hostile, as though the walls themselves were bracing for conflict. Harry sought out Luna the evening of their return, finding her in the library surrounded by books on obscure defensive magic. "Happy Christmas," he said, sliding into the chair across from her. "Sorry I didn't get a chance to give you your present before break." Luna looked up and smiled, her radish earrings swinging. "Happy Christmas, Harry. I have yours too." They exchanged packages. Luna had given Harry what looked like a small glass orb filled with swirling silver and gold mist. "It's a remembrall of sorts," she explained. "But instead of just turning red when you've forgotten something, it shows you what you've forgotten if you hold it and whisper, 'Memento.'" "That's brilliant," Harry said, genuinely impressed. "Did you make this?" Luna nodded. "It's a modification of the standard remembrall charm. I thought it might be useful with all your responsibilities." Harry's gift to Luna seemed inadequate in comparison, a silver charm bracelet with tiny replicas of things that reminded him of her, a radish, a thestral, a hare, for her Patronus, a butterbeer cork, and a tiny copy of the Quibbler. But Luna's face lit up when she saw it. "Oh, Harry, it's beautiful." She slipped it onto her wrist immediately. "Did you charm it yourself?" "I had some help from Hermione with the spell work," Harry admitted. "But I chose everything on it." Luna ran her fingers over the charms, lingering on the thestral. "This is the most thoughtful gift anyone's ever given me." The way she looked at him then, her eyes shining with genuine delight, made Harry's heart skip. Without thinking too much about it, he leaned across the table and kissed her. It was a brief, clumsy kiss, their noses bumped, and Harry's glasses were pushed askew, but when he pulled back, Luna was smiling more brightly than he'd ever seen. "That was nice," she said simply. "I've been hoping you might do that." Harry felt his face heat. "Yeah. Since when?" Luna considered this with her usual thoroughness. "Since the Department of Mysteries, I think. Or maybe since you first talked to me about the Thestrals. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when I started hoping." "I'm sorry it took me so long to figure it out," Harry said. Luna shook her head. Things happen when they're meant to. Not before. She reached across the table and touched his cheek. Would you like to do it again? I think we could improve with practice. Harry grinned. I'd like that very much. Their second kiss was better, more coordinated, longer, and uninterrupted until Madame Pants rounded a bookshelf and cleared her throat pointedly. They left the library hand in hand, laughing quietly as they dodged Filch in the corridors. When they reached the point where they needed to part ways, Harry to Gryffindor Tower, Luna to Ravenclaw, they lingered. So, Harry said awkwardly. Are we? I mean, would you want to be, Yes, Luna said simply. I would like to be your girlfriend, Harry Potter. Harry smiled, relief washing over him. Good. That's really good. Luna stood on tiptoe and kissed him quickly. Good night, Harry. Watch out for the Nargles by the 5th floor corridor, they're particularly active tonight. As she skipped away toward Ravenclaw Tower, Harry touched his lips, still feeling the ghost of her kiss. For the first time in months, the weight of prophecy and war felt lighter on his shoulders. Word spread quickly through the castle that Harry Potter and Luna Lovegood were dating. The reactions ranged from surprise to confusion to outright disbelief. Luna Lovegood? Seamus repeated when he heard. Loony Luna. Are you having us on? Don't call her that, Harry said sharply. And yes, Luna and I are together. Dean looked thoughtful. You know, it kind of makes sense. You've both seen some things others haven't. The Slytherins, predictably, were less charitable. Harry caught snippets of comments as he passed them in the hallways. Potter's finally cracked, and, perfect match, both mental cases, and, what do you expect from someone who thinks the Dark Lord's back? The last one made Harry laugh out loud, considering Voldemort's return was now widely acknowledged. Luna, for her part, seemed unfazed by the attention. People always talk about things they don't understand, she said serenely when Harry mentioned the rumors. It's easier than trying to expand their minds. Hermione was supportive, if slightly bemused. I never would have matched you two, she admitted to Harry in the common room one evening. But I can see why it works. Luna accepts you exactly as you are. Unlike some people, Harry said pointedly, thinking of Cho and her jealousy over Hermione's friendship. Hermione nodded. Exactly. And you do the same for her. You don't try to change her or dismiss her ideas, even the, more creative ones. I like her creativity, Harry said defensively. I know you do. Hermione smiled. That's why you're good together. Ron was less analytical but equally supportive in his own way. Luna, is weird, mate, but she's loyal. After everything with you-know-who, that's what matters, isn't it? Plus, she makes you laugh. Don't see much of that these days. The observation struck Harry. It was true, Luna did make him laugh, often when he least expected it. Her unique perspective on the world cut through the darkness that had been closing in around him since Sirius's death and the prophecy's revelation. Their relationship developed naturally over the winter months. They studied together in the library, took walks around the frozen lake, and found hidden corners of the castle where they could talk for hours or simply sit in comfortable silence, Luna reading the Quibbler upside down while Harry practiced defense spells. Luna attended Harry's Quidditch matches wearing her lion hat, which now roared even more impressively thanks to some charm modifications she'd made. Harry found himself looking for her in the stands before every game, drawing strength from her unwavering support. For Valentine's Day, Luna created a scavenger hunt that led Harry through the castle following clues that referenced their shared experiences, ending at the room with the ancient telescope where they'd watched the magical ley lines together. I thought we could see if there are any Valentine's Day-specific cosmic phenomena, Luna explained when he found her waiting there. Some magical creatures only appear during holidays when emotional energy is heightened. They didn't find any holiday-specific magical creatures, but they did spend a pleasant evening stargazing and kissing, which Harry considered a perfect Valentine's celebration. But the peaceful bubble of their relationship couldn't completely shield them from the growing darkness beyond Hogwarts' walls. Reports of disappearances appeared almost daily in the Prophet. Death Eater attacks on Muggle villages increased. Students were occasionally called out of class to be informed of family tragedies. And Harry's private lessons with Dumbledore grew more urgent as they delved deeper into Voldemort's past and the mystery of his apparent immortality. Luna listened without judgment as Harry shared what he could of these lessons, offering insights that sometimes shed new light on what Dumbledore had shown him. Splitting your soul through murder, she said thoughtfully when Harry explained the concept of Horcruxes. It's like the opposite of the ancient Egyptian soul magic Daddy studied. They believed the soul had 5 parts that needed to remain in harmony for a peaceful afterlife. What happens if they're not in harmony? Harry asked. The person becomes a restless spirit, unable to move on but not fully present either. Neither living nor dead. Luna twirled a lock of hair around her finger. Rather like Voldemort after his first defeat, wouldn't you say? The observation was so astute that Harry mentioned it to Dumbledore at their next meeting. The headmaster's eyebrows had risen in surprise. Miss Lovegood has a remarkable mind, he commented. Her father's research into obscure magical traditions may indeed provide valuable insights. Perhaps you could ask her if Xenophilius has any sources on soul magic beyond the Egyptian texts. Harry relayed the request to Luna, who promised to write to her father. Xenophilius's response came a week later, a package of notes and obscure grimoires that Luna delivered to Dumbledore personally. The headmaster seemed very interested in Daddy's theories about soul anchors, she reported afterward. Though he was careful not to explain why. I suspect there are Raxperts nesting in his office, his aura was quite clouded. Harry squeezed her hand, grateful for her help while unable to fully explain its importance. Your dad's research could really make a difference, Luna. She smiled. Daddy would be pleased to know that. He's always said knowledge is meant to be shared, not hoarded. The increasing gravity of the war effort made their moments together all the more precious. They carved out time between classes, Quidditch, DA meetings, which Dumbledore had allowed to continue as an official club, and Harry's private lessons. Often they simply walked the grounds, finding peace in each other's company and the natural beauty of Hogwarts in winter giving way to spring. Luna taught Harry to recognize signs of magical creatures that most wizards overlooked, distinctive marks on tree bark, patterns in the way dew collected on certain plants, subtle shifts in the ambient magic of different areas. It's like learning a new language, Harry observed as they examined what Luna insisted were bowtruckle footprints near the edge of the Forbidden Forest. Exactly, Luna beamed. Most wizards think magic is just about spells and potions, but it's an entire ecosystem if you know how to look at it. Harry found that this perspective enhanced his own magical abilities. When he approached spellcasting as Luna did, as a conversation with magic rather than a command, his results improved noticeably. His nonverbal spells grew more consistent, and his defensive charms gained strength. Professor Flitwick commented on the change after a particularly impressive demonstration of the Protego Maxima charm in class. Your technique has evolved, Mr. Potter, the tiny professor observed. Less force, more flow. Rather like Miss Lovegood's approach, if I may say so. Harry grinned. She's a good influence on me, Professor. Indeed. Flitwick's eyes twinkled. It goes to show that we can learn as much from our peers as from our teachers sometimes. The peaceful routine Harry and Luna had established was shattered in early March when a school owl delivered a copy of the Daily Prophet with a headline that made Harry's blood run cold: Azkaban breakout, mass murderer Bellatrix Lestrange among escaped Death Eaters, she killed Sirius, Harry said, his voice hollow as he stared at the cackling photograph of Bellatrix. Luna, who had been reading over his shoulder at the Gryffindor table, she had taken to joining him for breakfast, ignoring the house boundaries, placed her hand over his. Yes, she said simply. She did. No platitudes, no attempts to distract him or tell him not to dwell on it. Just acknowledgement of the truth and silent support. Harry turned his hand over to grip hers tightly. The breakout dominated conversation throughout the castle. Security measures increased again. Aurors were stationed in Hogsmeade and occasionally patrolled the school grounds. Student movement was restricted, with younger years confined to the castle unless accompanied by professors. Harry threw himself into DA meetings with renewed vigor, pushing the members to master more advanced defensive spells. Luna worked alongside him, her practical experience from the Department of Mysteries making her one of the more skilled members despite her dreamy demeanor. "You need to mean it," she explained to a group of struggling fourth years as they practiced shield charms. "Your magic knows if you're just going through the motions. You have to truly want to protect yourself and others." Harry watched her demonstrate, her shield expanding to cover not just herself but the students around her, and felt a surge of something powerful in his chest, pride, admiration, and something deeper he wasn't quite ready to name. Later that evening, as they sat together in the room of requirement after everyone else had left, Luna noticed his pensive mood. "You're worried," she observed, leaning against his shoulder. Harry nodded. "The Azkaban breakout means Voldemort's moving more openly. It's only going to get worse." Luna was quiet for a moment. "Daddy says darkness always seems strongest just before light returns. Like the winter solstice, the longest night comes right before the days start getting longer again." Harry wished he could share her optimism. "This feels different. Like we're running out of time." "Perhaps we are," Luna agreed, surprising him with her frankness. "But that makes the time we have more precious, doesn't it?" She turned to face him fully, her silver eyes serious in a way they rarely were. "I'm not afraid, Harry. Whatever comes, we'll face it. Together." The simple declaration, delivered without drama or artifice, touched something deep within Harry. Luna didn't make grand promises she couldn't keep. She didn't pretend the danger wasn't real. But she also didn't let fear rule her choices. Together, he agreed, pulling her close and kissing the top of her head. They stayed like that until curfew, talking quietly about what might lie ahead, plans and contingencies, ways to keep themselves and others safe. It was the first time Harry had been able to discuss his fears so openly with anyone, without worrying about causing panic or being told he was overreacting. As they reluctantly prepared to return to their respective dormitories, Luna fastened something around Harry's neck, a small cork pendant on a leather cord. "A portable anti-nargle charm," she explained. "And a reminder that you're not alone, even when I'm not physically with you." Harry touched the pendant, oddly moved by the gesture. "I'll wear it always." Luna smiled. "Good. The nargles around you have been particularly persistent lately." The relative peace of Hogwarts shattered completely in April when Luna's father published an explosive article in the Quibbler about Ministry corruption and suspected Death Eater infiltration. The article named names, including several high-ranking officials and wealthy donors like Lucius Malfoy. 3 days after publication, Luna was summoned from Charms class to the headmaster's office. When she didn't return by dinner, Harry began to worry. "She's probably fine," Hermione reassured him as they sat in the Great Hall. "Dumbledore wouldn't let anything happen to her." But Harry couldn't shake his unease. He excused himself early and headed straight to Dumbledore's office, only to find Professor McGonagall standing outside the gargoyle entrance. "Potter," she said, her expression grave. "I was just coming to find you." Harry's heart dropped. "What's happened? Where's Luna?" McGonagall hesitated, which only increased Harry's alarm. McGonagall never hesitated. "Miss Lovegood has been taken home," she said finally. "Her father's house was attacked last night. He is unharmed," she added quickly, seeing the horror on Harry's face. "But the printing press was destroyed, and threats were made. Mr. Lovegood requested his daughter's return for her safety." "Death Eaters?" Harry asked, though he already knew the answer. "It appears so, though the Ministry is calling it vandalism by persons unknown." McGonagall's tone made her opinion of this classification clear. The headmaster attempted to persuade Mr. Lovegood that Hogwarts would be safer, but... She sighed. A parent's right to withdraw their child is absolute. I need to talk to her, Harry said desperately. Can I use the flu in your office? McGonagall's expression softened slightly. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Potter. Mr. Lovegood has disconnected his flu network for security reasons. An owl post to their location is being redirected through a security screening that causes significant delays. Harry felt panic rising. But I need to know she's okay. Miss Lovegood left this for you, McGonagall said, holding out a sealed envelope. She assured me she would find a way to contact you directly once they are settled. Harry took the envelope with numb fingers. Thank you, Professor Potter, McGonagall called as he turned to leave. When he looked back, her expression was both stern and compassionate. Do not do anything rash. The Order is aware of the situation and is taking appropriate measures. Harry nodded dully and walked away, clutching Luna's letter. He didn't open it until he reached an empty classroom, needing privacy for whatever it contained. Dear Harry, by the time you read this, I'll be gone from Hogwarts. Daddy's article has stirred up the Rotfong conspiracy, or Death Eaters, as most people call them, and our home was attacked. Daddy is taking us somewhere safe for a while, I can't say where in case this letter is intercepted. I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye properly. Professor Dumbledore suggested I stay at Hogwarts, but Daddy is quite frightened and needs me with him. I think he blames himself for putting me in danger. I've left something for you with Ginny, a two-way communication mirror I modified. It's keyed to a matching one I'm taking with me. Unlike Flu or Owl Post, it can't be tracked or intercepted. Just say my name while holding it, and if I'm able to, I'll answer. Please don't worry too much, though I suspect you will anyway. Daddy and I are quite good at hiding when necessary. We've had practice, looking for creatures no one else believes in. Remember what we talked about, darkness always seems strongest before the light returns. Keep your cork pendant close, the Nargles are especially active during times of emotional distress. I miss you already. Love, Luna P.S. The back of this parchment is enchanted. Write on it with the ink I gave you for Christmas, and the words will appear on a matching piece I have. It's not as good as the mirror, but it's something. Harry immediately flipped the parchment over and dug through his bag for the color-changing ink Luna had given him. His hands shook as he wrote, Luna, are you okay? Where are you? I'm worried. The ink shimmered on the page, changing from green to purple as it dried. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, words appeared in Luna's distinctive handwriting, we're safe for now. Can't say where. Daddy's arranging protections. I'm okay. Don't worry. We'll try mirror tonight. Harry clutched the parchment like a lifeline. At least she was alive and able to communicate. He wrote back quickly, I'll get the mirror from Ginny. Be careful. I miss you. The response came more slowly this time, miss you too. Have to go. Daddy needs help with the defensive distortion field. Talk tonight. The words faded slightly but remained visible on the parchment. Harry carefully folded the letter and tucked it into his pocket, then set out to find Ginny and the communication mirror. He found her in the common room, already waiting for him with a small package. McGonagall told me what happened, she said, handing it to him. Luna left this with me at breakfast, said you'd need it today. I didn't understand then, but... Harry unwrapped the package to find what looked like a compact mirror with an intricately carved frame that reminded him of the patterns in Luna's cork necklaces and radish earrings. Thanks, he said, slipping it into his pocket. Did she say anything else? Ginny hesitated. Just that if anything happened to her, you should look for something called Ravenflight. Ravenwing. Ravenclaw, Harry corrected automatically, then frowned. No, that can't be right. It was something to do with ravens, Ginny insisted. It seemed important, but she was being secretive, even for Luna. Harry nodded, filing the information away. Thanks, Gin. He spent the rest of the day in a fog of worry, going through the motions of classes without taking anything in. As soon as dinner ended, he retreated to his dormitory, drew the curtains around his bed, and cast a silencing charm for privacy. Holding the mirror, he said clearly, "Luna Lovegood." The surface of the mirror clouded, then cleared to reveal Luna's face. Relief flooded through Harry at the sight of her, alive and apparently unharmed. "Luna. Are you okay? What happened?" She smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hello, Harry. We're managing." 3 Death Eaters came to the house after Daddy's article. They destroyed the press and threatened worse if he published anything else about the ministry. "Where are you?" Harry asked, studying what he could see of the background. It looked like the inside of a tent, but not a normal one. "I can't say specifically, but we're staying with friends of Daddy's. Other people who see things differently." Luna's expression grew more serious. "Harry, they were looking for something at our house." "Something specific?" Harry frowned. "What?" "I'm not sure, but I heard one of them mention Ravenclaw before Daddy got me out through the back door." Luna's voice dropped to a whisper. "I think it might have something to do with what you and Dumbledore are researching. About soul magic." Harry's blood ran cold. If Death Eaters were looking for a Ravenclaw artifact that might be a Horcrux. "Luna, this is important. Did your dad ever have anything that belonged to Rowena Ravenclaw? Anything historically significant?" Luna shook her head. "Not that I know of. But..." She hesitated. "There's a legend about Ravenclaw's lost diadem. Daddy's researched it for years. That might be what they were asking about." "A diadem? Like a tiara?" "Yes, it's supposed to enhance the wisdom of the wearer. It's been lost for centuries, but Daddy believes it wasn't destroyed, just hidden." Luna glanced over her shoulder as if checking no one was listening. "Harry, be careful at Hogwarts. I think whatever they're looking for might be connected to the school somehow." Harry nodded grimly. "I'll talk to Dumbledore. Luna, promise me you'll stay safe. Don't take any risks." "I promise if you do," she replied with a small smile. "Deal." Harry touched the surface of the mirror, wishing he could reach through it to her. "When will you come back?" Luna's expression clouded. "I don't know. Daddy's talking about going abroad for a while. Romania, perhaps, or Sweden." The thought of Luna being so far away made Harry's chest tighten. "But you'll come back eventually?" "Of course I will," Luna said with conviction. "I have to see if the raxburts around your head have cleared up, don't I?" Harry smiled despite his worry. "I miss you already." "I miss you too. But we have the mirrors, and the enchanted parchment." Luna's voice softened. "And Harry? What I wrote in my letter, about love. I meant it." Harry's heart skipped. She had signed her letter, "Love, Luna," but he hadn't been sure if it was just a conventional closing or something more. I love you too, Luna," he said, the words coming easier than he expected. "Please be careful." "I will. You too." She glanced away again. "I have to go, Daddy needs help with the protective charms. I'll contact you tomorrow." The mirror clouded over, then reflected only Harry's own face, looking more worried than he'd realized. He immediately went to Dumbledore's office to report what Luna had told him about the Death Eater's interest in Ravenclaw's diadem. The headmaster listened gravely, his expression darkening. "Most troubling," Dumbledore murmured when Harry finished. "If Tom has indeed used Ravenclaw's diadem as a Horcrux, it presents both a problem and an opportunity. We must locate it before his Death Eaters do." "Luna said it's been lost for centuries," Harry pointed out. "And yet, Tom Riddle may have found it," Dumbledore said thoughtfully. "He was always adept at uncovering Hogwarts secrets. Much like yourself and Miss Lovegood, in fact." The comparison made Harry uncomfortable. Sir, about Luna, is there anything the Order can do to protect her and her father? Dumbledore sighed. We have offered protection, but Xenophilius Lovegood is suspicious of established organizations, even those opposed to Voldemort. He believes his own methods will keep them safer. The headmaster gave Harry a penetrating look. You care deeply for Miss Lovegood. It wasn't a question, but Harry answered anyway. Yes, sir. I do. Love is the most powerful magic of all, Harry, Dumbledore said softly. Never forget that. The days that followed were some of the hardest Harry had experienced at Hogwarts. He went through the motions of classes and Quidditch, but his thoughts were constantly with Luna, worrying about her safety. Their mirror conversations and enchanted parchment messages became his lifeline. Luna and her father moved frequently, never staying in one place for more than a few days. They connected with other, alternative, magical thinkers, people Xenophilius knew through his magazine who lived off the grid, avoiding both Ministry and Death Eater attention. Luna tried to keep her messages positive, telling Harry about the unusual people they met and strange magical practices they encountered, but he could sense her underlying worry. Daddy's not sleeping, she confided during one mirror conversation in late April. He jumps at every sound. I'm afraid he's going to make himself ill with worry. Can't you convince him to accept Order protection? Harry asked for what felt like the 100th time. Luna shook her head. He doesn't trust them. He says any organization large enough to fight Voldemort is large enough to be infiltrated by him. She sighed. He's not entirely wrong, given what happened at the Ministry last year. Harry couldn't argue with that logic, but it didn't ease his concern. Just, keep yourself safe, even if he won't accept help. Promise me. I promise, Luna said solemnly. I have quite a lot to come back to, after all. The situation at Hogwarts grew increasingly tense as well. More students were pulled out by worried parents. Those with known Death Eater connections, like Malfoy, walked the halls with a new arrogance. Rumors circulated about Dumbledore's frequent absences from the school. Harry continued his private lessons with the headmaster when Dumbledore was present, learning more about Horcruxes and Voldemort's past. They discussed the possibility of Ravenclaw's diadem being a Horcrux but had no leads on where it might be hidden. If it's at Hogwarts, where would it be? Harry asked during one session. The Chamber of Secrets? Possible, but unlikely, Dumbledore mused. Tom would not reuse a hiding place, I think. He is too clever for that. Harry thought of all the secret places Luna had shown him, the Forgotten Observatory, the Hidden Garden, the Portrait Corridor. Hogwarts was full of such spaces, known only to a few or forgotten entirely. The castle itself is a maze of hiding places, Harry said frustratedly. It could be anywhere. Indeed. Dumbledore steepled his fingers. Yet we must continue searching. Time grows short, I fear. The ominous statement lingered with Harry long after the meeting ended. Time was growing short, he could feel it in the increasing frequency of disappearances reported in the Prophet, in the tightening security around the school, in Dumbledore's more frequent absences. And in the growing desperation he sensed in Luna's messages. We're leaving Britain, she wrote on their enchanted parchment in early May. Daddy says it's not safe anywhere here anymore. We're going to Sweden tomorrow. The news hit Harry like a physical blow. Sweden was so much farther away than just hiding in Britain. Would the mirrors even work across such a distance? When will you come back? He wrote, the ink turning a deep, dark blue that reflected his mood. I don't know. Daddy's talking about staying away until it's over. Her writing paused, then continued. I told him I can't stay away that long. I have to come back. It's too dangerous, Harry replied. Being apart is dangerous too, came Luna's response. Separation makes us vulnerable in different ways. Harry stared at the words, understanding her meaning on a level that transcended rational thought. There was a connection between them now, something that had grown from friendship into something deeper, more essential. Being apart felt wrong, like missing a part of himself. "I need to see you before you go," he wrote impulsively. There was a long pause before Luna's reply appeared. "The Hog's Head. Tomorrow night at 8. Aberforth will let us use his back room. Can you get out of the castle?" Harry thought of his invisibility cloak, the Marauder's map, and the secret passages he knew. "Yes. I'll be there." Getting out of the castle proved easier than Harry expected. Security was focused on keeping people out, not in. With the Marauder's map to avoid patrols and his invisibility cloak for cover, Harry slipped through the one-eyed witch passage to Honeydukes, then made his way to the Hog's Head. Aberforth was waiting at the back door, looking grumpy as usual. "She's upstairs," he grunted, jerking his thumb toward a narrow staircase. "Don't make me regret this, Potter." "Thank you," Harry said sincerely. "Really?" The old man's expression softened slightly. "Go on, then. You haven't got long." Harry took the stairs 2 at a time, his heart pounding. At the top was a small, sparsely furnished room with a single window overlooking the darkened village. And there, silhouetted against the evening sky, was Luna. She turned at the sound of his footsteps, and then she was in his arms, holding him so tightly he could barely breathe. Harry buried his face in her hair, inhaling the familiar scent of herbs and something uniquely Luna. "I've missed you," he murmured against her temple. Luna pulled back just enough to look at his face, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight streaming through the window. "Your Raxpert infestation is terrible," she said, but her voice wavered with emotion. Harry laughed despite the lump in his throat. "I've been worried about you." "I know." Luna touched his face gently. "I've been worried about you too. Hogwarts isn't as safe as everyone thinks." "Neither is Sweden," Harry countered. Luna smiled slightly. "No, but it has fewer Death Eaters at the moment." Her expression grew serious. "Daddy doesn't know I'm here. He thinks I'm gathering moon seeds for protection charms. We're leaving at dawn." The reminder that their time was short made Harry pull her close again. "I don't want you to go." "I don't want to go either," Luna admitted, her voice muffled against his chest. "But Daddy needs me right now. He's so frightened, Harry." Harry understood. As much as he wanted Luna to stay, he couldn't ask her to abandon her father. Not when Xenophilius was Lovegood's only remaining family. "Just, come back to me," he said. "When you can. When it's safe." Luna looked up at him, her expression more solemn than he'd ever seen it. "I will always come back to you, Harry Potter. Always." The promise hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning beyond the simple words. Harry lowered his head and kissed her, trying to convey everything he couldn't find words for: fear, love, longing, determination. Luna responded with equal intensity, her usual dreamy demeanor replaced by focused presence. There was nothing abstract or whimsical in the way she pressed against him, her hands gripping the front of his shirt as if anchoring herself to him. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Harry rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said, the words feeling inadequate for the emotion behind them. "I know," Luna replied simply. "I love you too. That won't change, no matter how far apart we are." They spent the next hour talking quietly, making plans for how to stay in touch. The mirrors should work across international borders, but the connection might be weaker. The enchanted parchment would function regardless of distance, though messages would take longer to appear the farther apart they were. "I've been researching a modification to the protean charm," Luna explained. "Something that creates a more direct link. If I can perfect it, we could communicate instantly, maybe even share sensations across distance." Harry marveled yet again at her magical creativity. "That sounds like advanced magic." "It is," Luna acknowledged. "But necessity often leads to innovation. The first broomsticks were created because a witch needed to travel quickly to her injured child but couldn't apparate. Too soon, Aberforth was knocking at the door, warning them that it was time for Harry to return to the castle before his absence was noticed. Their goodbye was both too long and too brief. Harry memorized the feeling of Luna in his arms, the scent of her hair, the sound of her voice. She pressed something into his hand at the last moment, a small, silvery feather unlike any he'd seen before. "It's from a jobberknoll," she explained. "They're silent their whole lives until the moment of death, when they release a long cry containing every sound they've ever heard, backward. Daddy and I found it in the forest last week." "What's it for?" Harry asked, carefully tucking the delicate feather into his pocket. "Memory," Luna said. "Jobberknoll feathers are used in memory potions. But they're also believed to help people find their way back to what matters most." She kissed him one last time. "So you'll always find your way back to me, and I to you." Harry made his way back to the castle in a daze of emotion, the jobberknoll feather a warm presence in his pocket. Only when he was safely back in his dormitory did he allow himself to really feel the weight of Luna's departure. She was leaving Britain. Going far away while he remained at Hogwarts, facing whatever was coming. The separation felt wrong on a fundamental level, like trying to cast a spell with the wrong wand. But Luna's promise echoed in his mind, "I will always come back to you, Harry Potter." Always. He had to hold on to that, through whatever darkness lay ahead. The first message from Sweden came 3 days later, the words appearing more slowly than usual on the enchanted parchment. "We've arrived. Mountains. Small wizarding community. They don't believe Daddy about the crumplehorn snorkax, but they're helping us anyway. How are you?" Harry wrote back immediately, describing the increased security at Hogwarts, Dumbledore's continued absences, and his own research into where Ravenclaw's diadem might be hidden. "Have you checked the room of requirement?" Luna's response came several hours later. "If I wanted to hide something at Hogwarts, that's where I'd put it." Harry stared at her message, feeling like an idiot for not considering it before. The room of requirement could become anything a person needed, including, potentially, a hiding place for a valuable object. "Brilliant." He wrote back. "I'll check it tomorrow." The next day, Harry asked the room to become a place where things are hidden, and was astonished to find a cathedral-sized space filled with thousands of objects, broken furniture, banned items, hidden treasures accumulated over centuries. Finding a small diadem in the massive room seemed impossible, but Harry was determined to try. He spent hours searching whenever he could slip away, but the task was overwhelming. It would take years to search everything, he wrote to Luna after his third attempt. "And I'm not even sure what the diadem looks like. It's described as silver with a sapphire and the Ravenclaw motto, 'Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure,'" Luna replied. "But Harry, be careful. If it's what we suspect, it could be dangerous to touch." Harry continued his search while also attending increasingly demanding classes, Quidditch practices, and meetings with Dumbledore. The headmaster was visibly weakening, though he refused to discuss his condition with Harry. Instead, he focused their sessions on ensuring Harry understood everything about Horcruxes and Voldemort's history. "Knowledge will be your greatest weapon, Harry," Dumbledore said during what would turn out to be their final lesson. "When the time comes, and it approaches quickly now, remember everything I have taught you." The ominous statement lingered with Harry as May turned to June and the end of term approached. Communication with Luna became his anchor amid growing tension in the castle. The mirror conversations were difficult to maintain across such distance, the connection often fuzzy, the image breaking up, but hearing her voice, even briefly, kept him grounded. "You look tired," Luna observed during one such call, her image flickering in the mirror. "Are you sleeping at all?" "Not much," Harry admitted. "Between classes and searching the room and worrying about you." "I'm perfectly safe," Luna assured him. "It's you I'm concerned about." "Something's coming, Harry. I can feel it." Harry could feel it too, a gathering storm, pressure building like the moment before lightning strikes. "I know. Dumbledore feels it too. He's preparing me, but I don't know for what exactly." Luna's expression grew solemn. Whatever it is, remember you're not alone. Even when I'm not physically there. Harry touched the cork pendant she'd given him, which he wore constantly now. I remember. The connection began to break up, Luna's image fracturing. Love you, he caught before the mirror cleared, showing only his own reflection. I love you too, he whispered to the empty glass. The storm broke 3 nights later. Harry was in the common room, attempting to focus on exam revision while actually thinking about Luna, when Professor McGonagall's amplified voice echoed through the castle, all students are to return to their house dormitories immediately. All teachers to the entrance hall. Ron and Hermione exchanged alarmed looks with Harry. This was it, whatever it was. Stay here, Harry told them, already moving toward the portrait hole. I need to check something. Harry, no. Hermione protested. McGonagall said, I know what she said, Harry cut her off. But if Death Eaters are coming to Hogwarts, there's something I need to do first. He didn't wait for their response, already slipping through the portrait hole under his invisibility cloak. His destination was the room of requirement, one last attempt to find the diadem before whatever was coming arrived. But as he approached the 7th floor corridor, he saw Draco Malfoy emerging from the very room Harry had been heading toward, looking pale but triumphant. Harry froze, watching as Malfoy threw something into the air and caught it, a small object that glinted silver in the torchlight. Could it be the diadem? Before Harry could move to intercept him, Malfoy was running down the corridor toward the astronomy tower. Harry hesitated only a moment before following, his heart pounding. If Malfoy had found the diadem, if he was bringing it to Voldemort or his Death Eaters. The events that followed would later blur in Harry's memory, Dumbledore and Harry returning from the cave with the fake locket Horcrux, the dark mark over the astronomy tower, Dumbledore immobilizing Harry under the invisibility cloak, Death Eaters in the castle, Snape's killing curse, Dumbledore falling. In the chaos and grief that followed, Harry completely forgot about Malfoy and the silver object until later that night, when he was sitting numbly in the hospital wing beside Bill Weasley's bed. The memory surfaced suddenly, Malfoy with something silver. The diadem? But no, Malfoy hadn't gone to the astronomy tower to deliver an object to Death Eaters. He'd gone there to kill Dumbledore, a task he ultimately couldn't complete. So what had the silver object been? And where was it now? Harry had no answers, and with Dumbledore gone, no one to ask. The thought of the headmaster's death sent a fresh wave of grief through him. He needed Luna, her unique perspective, her ability to see patterns others missed, her calming presence. But Luna was in Sweden, far from the tragedy unfolding at Hogwarts. As if summoned by his thoughts, the enchanted parchment in his pocket grew warm. Harry pulled it out to find Luna's handwriting appearing, faster than it had in weeks. Harry, what's happening? I felt something terrible. Are you safe? Harry stared at the message, wondering how Luna could possibly have sensed something was wrong from so far away. With shaking hands, he wrote back, Dumbledore is dead. Snape killed him. Death Eaters in the castle. I'm okay physically. Emotionally. I need you. The response came immediately, coming home. Now. Meet me at the Hog's Head tomorrow night. Harry's heart leapt, then plummeted. Too dangerous, he wrote. Stay safe in Sweden. Please. Already decided. Daddy understands. Portkey arranged. 9 p.m. tomorrow. Be there. Harry closed his eyes, relief and fear warring within him. Luna was coming back, the thought filled him with desperate joy. But she was coming back to a Hogwarts without Dumbledore, with Death Eaters who had already breached its defenses once, with Voldemort growing bolder by the day. He looked around the hospital wing at the injured Order members, at Bill's mauled face, at the grief etched on every countenance. Was he being selfish, wanting Luna here where it was dangerous? Be careful, he wrote finally. I'll be there. Dumbledore's funeral was held the next day, a solemn affair by the lake. Harry moved through it in a fog of grief and anticipation, torn between mourning the headmaster and counting the hours until he would see Luna. After the ceremony, he pulled Ron and Hermione aside to tell them about Luna's return and his plans to meet her. "Are you mental?" Ron exclaimed. "After what just happened, you want to sneak out to Hogsmeade?" "I have to," Harry said simply. "She's coming back because of me. I can't leave her waiting." Hermione bit her lip. "Harry, I understand, but it's so dangerous. What if it's a trap? What if someone intercepted your messages?" Harry shook his head. "The parchment is keyed to our magical signatures. No one else could use it." He met their concerned gazes steadily. "I'm going. With or without your help." After exchanging a long look, Ron sighed. "Fine. We'll cover for you. But take the map and the cloak, and if anything feels off, I'll come straight back," Harry promised. "And Luna might stay at Hogwarts for a few days before term ends. Can you help make sure she's safe?" "Of course we will," Hermione said softly. "She's our friend too, Harry." The hours until 9 o'clock crawled by with excruciating slowness. Harry packed his trunk mechanically, went through the motions of dinner, and waited impatiently in the common room until it was time to leave. Slipping out of the castle was more difficult than before. Security had been increased, with Aurors patrolling the grounds and teachers monitoring the corridors. But Harry had years of practice evading detection, and the Marauder's map showed him the safe paths between patrols. The night was warm for June, stars bright overhead as Harry made his way through the Honeyduke's Passage and into Hogsmeade. The village was quieter than usual, many shops closed, few patrons on the streets. The three broomsticks had subdued lighting, and Harry could see a Daily Prophet headline posted in the window, "Hogwarts Headmaster Murdered." He hurried past, keeping to the shadows until he reached the Hog's Head. The dingy pub was nearly empty, just Aberforth behind the bar and a heavily hooded figure in the corner that Harry suspected might be Mundungus Fletcher. Aberforth nodded toward the back room without a word. Harry slipped through, heart pounding. The room was empty, but a small fire burned in the grate. Harry checked his watch, 10 minutes to 9. He paced nervously, wondering how exactly Luna was arriving. International port keys were strictly regulated. Had Mr. Lovegood found a legal way to arrange one, or was Luna using some more questionable method of transportation? At precisely 9 o'clock, the fire flared green, and Luna stepped out of the flames, brushing soot from her robes. She had a small rucksack over one shoulder and looked tired, her normally bright eyes shadowed. "Luna," Harry breathed, and then she was in his arms. They clung to each other without speaking, the relief of reunion too overwhelming for words. Harry buried his face in her hair, breathing in her familiar scent, reassuring himself that she was really here, solid and alive in his arms. When they finally pulled apart, Luna studied his face with concern. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "Your aura is all fragmented." "Despite everything," Harry laughed. "I've missed you so much." Luna smiled, though her eyes remained worried. "I've missed you too. I knew something was wrong even before I got your message. I felt it, like something tearing." "Dumbledore," Harry said, his smile fading. "Snape killed him. On the astronomy tower." Luna's eyes widened. "Professor Snape. But he was in the Order. He betrayed us." "Betrayed Dumbledore." Harry's voice caught. "I was there. I saw it happen. Dumbledore immobilized me under the invisibility cloak. I couldn't do anything." Luna led him to the small sofa by the fire, sitting close beside him as he recounted everything, the cave, the locket that turned out to be fake, Malfoy's role, the Death Eaters in the castle, Snape's killing curse, the battle afterward. She listened without interruption, her hand warm in his, her presence anchoring him as he relived the nightmare. "So the locket wasn't a real Horcrux," she said when he finished. "Someone got there first." Harry nodded, pulling the fake locket from his pocket and showing her the note inside, "To the Dark Lord, I know I will be dead long before you read this. R.A.B., Luna read aloud. Any idea who that is? Harry shook his head. None. Just one more mystery to solve. Luna was silent for a moment, her expression thoughtful. You said Malfoy had something silver, and you thought it might be the diadem? Maybe. I didn't get a good look. Harry ran a hand through his hair in frustration. But Malfoy's focus seemed to be letting the Death Eaters into the castle, not delivering an object to them. What if the object was for himself? Something to help his task. Luna suggested. Harry considered this. Maybe. But if it was the diadem, where is it now? Did Malfoy take it when he fled with Snape? Perhaps, Luna said. Or perhaps he hid it again. Either way. She squeezed his hand. We'll find it, Harry. Together. The simple declaration, the use of we rather than you, eased something in Harry's chest that had been tight since Dumbledore's death. He wasn't alone in this impossible task. He had Luna, brilliant, insightful Luna who saw things others missed. I'm so glad you're here, he said quietly. Though I'm still worried it's too dangerous. Luna shook her head. Nowhere is truly safe anymore. And Daddy understood when I told him I needed to be with you. He's staying with friends in Sweden for now. How did you get back? Harry asked. International portkeys are heavily regulated. Luna's eyes twinkled for the first time since her arrival. Oh, we didn't use ministry channels. Daddy has a friend who works with alternative magical transportation methods. They use ley lines rather than conventional portkey magic, much harder to trace. Of course Luna would find an unconventional way to travel. Harry smiled, feeling a spark of genuine happiness for the first time in days. Can you stay at Hogwarts until term ends? He asked. It's only a few more days. Luna nodded. That's the plan. Then we'll need to decide what comes next. She looked at him seriously. You're not going back to your aunt and uncles, are you? Just briefly, Harry said. I need to make an appearance for the blood protection, but I don't plan to stay the whole summer. He hesitated. Dumbledore left me a task. I can't go back to Hogwarts until it's done. Finding and destroying the Horcruxes, Luna said softly. Harry nodded. Ron and Hermione have already said they're coming with me. But Luna. He took both her hands in his. I can't ask you to, you're not asking, Luna interrupted. I'm telling. Where you go, I go. Her silver eyes were unusually fierce. We're stronger together, Harry. You know that. Harry did know it. Something about Luna's magic complemented his own, made both of them more effective. Her intuitive approach balanced his more direct methods. Her ability to perceive patterns revealed solutions he would never have seen. It will be dangerous, he warned, though he knew his protest was half-hearted. Luna smiled slightly. Life is dangerous. Especially for people who see thestrals. Harry couldn't argue with that. Instead, he pulled her close and kissed her, pouring everything he felt, relief, gratitude, love, into the contact. Luna responded with equal intensity, her usual dreaminess replaced with focused presence. When they finally parted, breathless, Luna rested her forehead against his. We should go back to the castle. People will worry if you're gone too long. Harry nodded reluctantly. Aberforth said you could use his flute to reach Flitwick's office. He's expecting you. They stood, Luna gathering her small rucksack. As they prepared to leave, she touched the cork pendant still hanging around Harry's neck. You kept it, she said, looking pleased. Always, Harry replied. It helped, when things got bad. Made me feel like you were still with me somehow. Luna smiled. That's because I enchanted it with a piece of my magical signature. A bit like a Horcrux, but with magic rather than soul. Harry stared at her. You can do that? Of course, Luna said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Magic recognizes itself across distances. That's how I knew something terrible had happened. I felt the disruption through our connection. Once again, Harry was struck by Luna's incredible magical insight. How many other witches or wizards would think to create such a link? How many would even believe it possible? You're amazing, he said simply. And I'm incredibly lucky to have you. Luna's smile brightened the dim room. We're lucky to have each other, Harry Potter. Now, let's go back to Hogwarts and start planning. We have Horcruxes to find and a Dark Lord to defeat. Despite everything, Dumbledore's death, the task ahead, the danger surrounding them, Harry felt a surge of hope as Luna took his hand. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And somehow, that made even the impossible seem achievable. Chapter 3, Patronus Heart. The summer sky outside Shell Cottage hung heavy with stars, their light barely touching the churning sea below. Harry sat on the sand dunes, his wand idly tracing patterns that glowed briefly before fading into the darkness. The war had changed everything, Hogwarts fallen, the Ministry infiltrated, Death Eaters hunting Muggleborns through the streets of London. But some things remained constant. Like Luna's hand in his as she settled beside him on the sand. You're thinking too loudly again, she said, her silver eyes reflecting starlight. The Raxperts are practically having a party around your head. Harry smiled despite himself. 3 months into their Horcrux hunt, and Luna could still make him smile even on the darkest nights. Just wondering where we go next, he said. The locket's destroyed, but we're no closer to finding the cup or the diadem. Luna leaned her head against his shoulder. We'll find them. The universe has patterns if you know how to look. She'd said this so many times it had become almost a mantra between them. They'd been staying at Bill and Fleur's cottage for 2 weeks, recovering after their narrow escape from Malfoy Manor. Ron and Hermione were inside with the others, planning their next move. But Harry had needed air, space to think without the weight of everyone's expectations pressing down on him. And Luna, as always, had known exactly when to find him. Your mother's protection charm worked at Malfoy Manor, Harry said, thinking of the moment Bellatrix's cutting curse had rebounded, giving them crucial seconds to escape. I've never seen anything like it. Luna smiled, genuine pleasure lighting her face. Mom would be pleased to know her research helped. She always said the best protection comes from within, not from shields you place around yourself. Harry thought about the intricate charm Luna had taught him last month, not a shield that blocked curses, but a spell that temporarily altered the caster's magical signature, making harmful magic slide away like water off oil. It had saved his life when Dolohov ambushed them in that abandoned farmhouse outside York. You've got more of your mother's spells to teach me, he asked, knowing the answer. Luna had been parceling them out gradually, ensuring he mastered each one before learning the next. I was thinking we could try the Patronus Heart tonight, actually, Luna replied, sitting up straighter. The stars are aligned perfectly, and your magical core has finally stabilized after that nasty hex last week. Harry raised his eyebrows. Patronus Heart. Sounds intense. It is, Luna acknowledged. It's one of Mum's final creations, she was working on it right before. She paused, a shadow crossing her face. Well, she never fully completed it, but I've made some adjustments based on her notes. Harry nodded, understanding the significance. Luna rarely spoke about her mother's death, but he knew finishing Pandora Lovegood's magical research was deeply meaningful to her. So how does it work? He asked, getting to his feet and offering Luna his hand. She rose gracefully, brushing sand from her clothes. It's like a Patronus, but instead of projecting happiness outward, it infuses your entire magical core with protective energy. Luna pulled her wand from behind her ear. Stand here, facing the sea. Harry positioned himself as directed, feeling the familiar buzz of anticipation that came whenever Luna taught him one of her unconventional spells. Ron remained skeptical of Luna's theoretical magic, as he called it, and even Hermione struggled to accept magical concepts that weren't found in any textbook. But Harry had seen the results firsthand. Luna's mother had been a genuine innovator, approaching magic from angles most wizards never considered. "Close your eyes," Luna instructed, standing behind him. "Think of your Patronus, but don't cast it. Just feel the energy gathering." Harry obeyed, conjuring the familiar image of his stag in his mind. He felt the warm, tingling sensation that preceded the Patronus charm. "Good," Luna murmured, her voice close to his ear. "Now, instead of pushing that energy outward, draw it inward. Imagine it flowing into your chest, your core, filling you from the inside." Harry concentrated, trying to reverse the familiar flow of the Patronus charm. It felt strange, like trying to breathe in reverse. The energy resisted at first, still wanting to form the stag. "It's fighting me," he muttered, brow furrowing with effort. "That's normal," Luna assured him. "Magic has habits, just like people. You need to gently redirect it." Her hands came to rest lightly on his shoulders. "Try thinking about what your Patronus represents to you personally. Not your father or your family legacy, but what the stag means to you." Harry considered this. His Patronus had always connected him to his father, but over time, it had become something more, a symbol of his own ability to overcome darkness, to find light even in the bleakest moments. As this understanding solidified, the resistant energy shifted, no longer fighting his attempt to draw it inward. Warmth spread through his chest, different from the external shield of a normal Patronus. This felt like it was becoming part of him, integrating with his very being. "Now the incantation," Luna whispered. "Cordis Patronum." "Cordis Patronum," Harry repeated, eyes still closed. The effect was immediate and astonishing. The warmth in his chest exploded outward, not leaving him but expanding until it filled every fiber of his body. Harry gasped as light seemed to pulse beneath his skin, visible even through his closed eyelids. When he opened his eyes, he saw his hands glowing with a soft, silvery light, the same color as his Patronus but somehow more substantial, more integrated with his physical form. "Incredible," Luna breathed, moving to stand in front of him. Her eyes reflected the silvery light emanating from him. "It's even stronger than I expected." "What exactly did I just do?" Harry asked, flexing his glowing fingers in wonder. "You've temporarily merged your Patronus energy with your magical core," Luna explained. "In this state, dark magic can't touch you directly. It's like having the protection of a Patronus against Dementors, but against all forms of dark arts." Harry felt invincible, filled with a sense of power and protection he'd never experienced before. "How long does it last?" "That depends on the caster's strength. For most wizards, maybe 10 minutes. Luna tilted her head, studying the quality of the light. "For you?" "Perhaps 30. Harry turned toward the cottage, where lamplight spilled from the windows. "We should show the others. This could be crucial for when we break into Gringotts." Luna nodded, but caught his arm as he started walking. "Harry, there's something important you should know. The Patronus heart has a side effect." "What kind of side effect?" "It amplifies emotional connections," Luna said carefully. "While it's active, you'll feel more intensely, especially toward people you're already emotionally linked to." "You mean like Ron and Hermione?" "Yes, but particularly me, since I guided the spell." Luna's expression was unusually serious. "Our connection will be heightened. You'll likely sense my emotions, perhaps even my location if we're separated. And I'll sense yours." Harry considered this. "That sounds useful, actually. Like a built-in way to keep track of each other during battle." "It can be," Luna agreed. "But it can also be overwhelming. Just, be prepared." As they walked back toward Shell Cottage, Harry became aware of a subtle pull toward Luna, like a gravitational force. He could sense her presence beside him more acutely than usual, almost as if he could feel the edges of her thoughts. It wasn't mind reading, nothing so specific, but a heightened awareness of her emotional state. Right now, she felt concerned, yet proud, with an undercurrent of something deeper that made his heart beat faster. Is this what you meant? He asked quietly. Luna glanced at him, a small smile playing on her lips. You can feel it already. You're adapting quickly. It's intense, Harry admitted as they reached the cottage door. But not in a bad way. The moment they entered, all conversation stopped. Ron, Hermione, Bill, and Fleur stared at Harry's glowing form with varying expressions of shock. Bloody hell, Ron managed. What happened to you? Patronus heart, Luna answered matter-of-factly. A protective enchantment my mother developed. We thought it might help with the Gringotts plan. Hermione approached cautiously, her researcher's curiosity overcoming her initial shock. I've never read about anything like this. How does it work? Is it a variant of the Patronus charm? As Luna explained the technical aspects to an increasingly fascinated Hermione, Harry found himself hyper-aware of everyone's reactions. Bill was impressed but wary, Fleur intrigued, Ron suspicious yet hopeful. He could sense these emotions with unusual clarity, as if the Patronus heart had heightened all his perceptions. But strongest of all was his connection to Luna. Even as she spoke with Hermione, he could feel her quiet excitement at successfully teaching him the spell, her lingering concern about the emotional side effects, and beneath it all, a steady, unwavering love that made the light beneath his skin pulse brighter. This could change everything, Bill was saying, leaning forward intently. If dark magic can't touch you directly, you might be able to bypass the thief's downfall and the cursed artifacts. It won't last forever, Luna cautioned. And it doesn't make Harry invulnerable, physical dangers still affect him, and enough dark magic concentrated in one place could overwhelm the protection. Still, Ron said, looking more optimistic than he had in days, this gives us a real advantage. Good job, Luna. Harry felt Luna's quiet pleasure at the rare direct praise from Ron. Their relationship had improved dramatically over the past months, but Ron still sometimes struggled to hide his skepticism about Luna's more esoteric ideas. As they gathered around the kitchen table to revise their Gringotts plan in light of this new development, Harry found himself able to focus with unusual clarity. The Patronus heart seemed to sharpen his thinking, allowing him to spot weaknesses in the plan that he might otherwise have missed. Later that night, as the silvery glow finally began to fade from his skin, Harry found Luna on the back porch, gazing up at the stars. That was amazing, he said, sitting beside her. Your mother was brilliant. Luna smiled, the moonlight silvering her hair. She was. But the spell wasn't working properly before she died. The protective aspect functioned, but she couldn't stabilize the emotional component. What do you mean? The heightened emotional awareness became overwhelming for her test subjects. Some couldn't distinguish their own feelings from others. Some became emotionally dependent on those they were connected to. Luna turned to him. I modified her formula based on something you taught me. What did I teach you? Harry asked, surprised. That love is protective but not possessive. Luna's eyes were serious. Your ability to care deeply for people without trying to control them, that's rare, Harry. I incorporated that principle into the spell structure, and it stabilized. Harry wasn't sure what to say. The idea that his emotional nature had somehow helped perfect an advanced protective spell was both flattering and slightly unnerving. Will you teach the others? He asked instead. Luna shook her head. Not yet. The spell requires a foundation of emotional stability that's uncommon during wartime. You have it because you've faced your darkest fears so many times they've lost their power over you. She looked out toward the sea. Most people are still running from their shadows. Harry understood what she meant. Ron had fled when the locket Horcrux amplified his insecurities. Hermione compartmentalized her fear rather than confronting it. Even Bill carried deep anxieties about his scars and what they meant for his future with Fleur. When this is over, Luna continued, I'll document all of Mum's research properly. Share it with people who can use it responsibly. She reached for his hand. But for now, it's just for us. Another layer of protection when we face what's coming. Harry laced his fingers with hers, feeling the last traces of the Patronus heart warming his chest. "Thank you for sharing this with me. For trusting me with your mother's legacy." Luna smiled, that dreamy, slightly distant smile that had once seemed so strange to him and now felt like coming home. "There's no one else I'd rather share it with, Harry Potter." The Gringotts break-in went both better and worse than they'd anticipated. Better, because the Patronus heart allowed Harry to handle cursed objects that would have otherwise triggered the bank's security system. Worse, because once they found the cup, their escape plan fell apart spectacularly. Dragon riding. Ron shouted over the wind as they clung to the beast's scales. "This wasn't in the bloody plan. Plans change." Harry called back, one arm around Luna's waist to keep her secure as the dragon climbed higher into the sky. "At least we got the cup." Luna, despite their precarious position, looked utterly delighted. "This is fascinating. I've never been this close to a Ukrainian iron belly before. Look at how the scales overlap differently near the wing joints." Only Luna could be making scientific observations while escaping on a half-blind dragon with Gringotts security wizards firing spells at them from below. Hermione, clinging to Ron and looking decidedly less enthusiastic than Luna, shouted, "Where is it taking us?" "Away from London, which is good enough for now," Harry replied. The dragon flew north for hours, eventually descending toward a remote lake in what appeared to be the Scottish Highlands. They jumped into the icy water just before it landed, swimming desperately for the shore as the beast lumbered to the lake's edge to drink. Dripping and freezing, they collapsed on the rocky shore, breathing hard. "I can't believe we did it," Hermione gasped, wringing water from her hair. "We actually broke into Gringotts and escaped." "With a Horcrux," Harry added, patting the moleskin pouch where he'd secured Hufflepuff's cup. "That's 3 down, 3 to go." 2, technically, Luna corrected, already using her wand to dry her clothes. "Since the diary and the locket are destroyed. We just need to find the diadem and destroy the cup." Ron sat up, shivering. "And figure out what the last one is. And, kill the bloody snake. And then you know who himself." His tone was sarcastic, but Harry could hear the undercurrent of genuine worry. "One step at a time," Harry said, accepting Luna's drying charm gratefully. "First, we need to find shelter and plan our next move." Luna pointed toward a distant line of trees. "There's an abandoned crofter's cottage about 2 miles that way. Daddy and I stayed there once while tracking red-capped mooncalves." Ron and Hermione exchanged a look that Harry had come to recognize, half skepticism, half resigned acceptance that Luna's odd knowledge often proved unexpectedly useful. "Lead the way," Harry said, helping Hermione to her feet. As they trekked through the heather toward the tree line, Harry felt a sudden, sharp pain in his scar, the first in weeks. He stumbled, pressing his palm against his forehead. "Harry?" Luna was immediately at his side, her hand on his arm. "He knows," Harry gasped as the vision cleared. "Voldemort knows we've taken the cup. He's furious, scared, even." "Good," Ron said grimly. "Let him worry for a change." But Hermione looked troubled. "If he knows we're hunting Horcruxes, he'll check on the others. We need to move faster." "Hogwarts," Harry said suddenly, the certainty filling him. "The diadem is at Hogwarts. It has to be. And so is he. In the vision, I saw him at Hogwarts, demanding to speak to Snape." "Then that's where we go next," Luna said simply. "It's too dangerous," Hermione protested. "Hogwarts is under Death Eater control. Snape is headmaster. There are still allies there," Luna pointed out. "Neville, Ginny, the DA. They've been resisting all year." She'd received sporadic messages from them through the enchanted galleons, keeping them updated on the resistance within the school. "Luna's right," Harry decided. "We need that diadem, and we need to end this before Voldemort realizes what we're doing and moves the remaining Horcruxes." Ron sighed. Breaking into Gringotts wasn't enough excitement for one day. Now we're infiltrating Death Eater-controlled Hogwarts. Tomorrow, Hermione insisted. We need to rest and plan first. And we should contact the Order, let them know what we're doing. Harry nodded, though impatience burned in him. Every moment they delayed gave Voldemort more time to protect his final anchors to immortality. They reached the cottage Luna had mentioned just as dusk was falling. It was indeed abandoned, a simple stone structure with a partially collapsed roof. But the main room remained intact, with a fireplace that Hermione soon had blazing with magical flames that produced no smoke. While Ron used the tent kit from Hermione's beaded bag to create sleeping areas, Harry and Luna stepped outside to send Patronus messages to the Order. In the gathering darkness, their stag and hare bounded away, carrying encoded information about their plans to enter Hogwarts. Do you think we'll find the diadem tomorrow? Luna asked as they watched the patron muses disappear. I hope so, Harry replied. But even if we do, we still don't know how to destroy it. Or the cup. They'd lost the Sword of Gryffindor during their capture at Malfoy Manor. Without it, they had no reliable way to destroy Horcruxes. We'll find a way, Luna said with her characteristic certainty. The Room of Requirement might help, it tends to provide what you need, if you're specific enough in asking. Harry smiled despite his fatigue. Luna's unwavering optimism had become one of his main sources of strength during their months on the run. While Ron struggled with doubts and Hermione with overthinking, Luna maintained a steady belief that solutions would present themselves if they remained open to seeing them. What would I do without you? He murmured, pulling her close. Luna looked up at him with those penetrating silver eyes. You'd manage. But I'm glad you don't have to. Later, as Ron and Hermione slept, Harry and Luna sat by the fire, speaking in hushed voices about what awaited them at Hogwarts. We should try the Room of Requirement first, Luna suggested. Not just for the diadem, but because it can provide a safe entry point. The room can create passages to other parts of the castle. I discovered that during 7th year while avoiding the Carrows. Harry nodded, tracing patterns on the back of her hand. I'm worried about you going back there. The Carrows had it out for you even before you escaped. Luna had spent 3 harrowing months at Hogwarts under Death Eater rule before Christmas, when she'd been taken from the train as leverage against her father. Her stories of the Carrows' brutality still gave Harry nightmares. I'll be careful, she promised. And I'll have you with me this time. Always, Harry affirmed, bringing her hand to his lips. Luna's expression grew more serious. There's something else we should consider. If we're going into what might be our final confrontation, we should try the Patronus heart again, but with a modification. What kind of modification? A synchronized casting, Luna explained. Instead of me guiding you through it, we cast simultaneously, with our intentions aligned. It would create a stronger protection for both of us, and enhance our connection even further. Harry considered this. The emotional side effects of the Patronus heart had been intense but manageable when Luna cast it on him alone. A synchronized version sounded powerful but potentially overwhelming. What are the risks? He asked. Magical synchronization requires absolute trust and emotional alignment, Luna said. If we're out of sync even slightly, the spell could backfire, temporarily disrupting both our magical cores. She paused. There's also the possibility that the enhanced connection would be permanent. Permanent? Luna nodded. The magical theory suggests that synchronized protective spells can create lasting bonds between the caster's magical signatures. We would always be able to sense each other to some degree, even after the active spell fades. Harry thought about what that would mean, a permanent magical connection to Luna. The ability to sense her emotions, perhaps even locate her across distances. It was intimate in a way that went beyond physical closeness. Would it hurt you? He asked, the most important question. Luna smiled slightly. No. If anything, it would be a source of strength for both of us. A magical anchor in uncertain times. Harry didn't need to think about it further. Then let's do it. Tomorrow, before we leave for Hogwarts." Luna's eyes sparkled in the firelight. "I was hoping you'd say that." Dawn broke clear and cool over the Scottish hills. Harry woke to find Luna already outside, seated cross-legged on a flat rock, her eyes closed in meditation. He joined her silently, taking a matching position facing her. Without opening her eyes, Luna smiled. "You're right on time. The sunrise energy is perfect for what we're attempting." Harry looked east, where the sun was just cresting the distant mountains, painting the landscape in gold and rose. "What do we do?" "We'll cast together, but instead of drawing the Patronus energy into just ourselves, we'll create a shared field between us." Luna opened her eyes, which reflected the sunrise like silver mirrors. "When I say now, we'll both say the incantation while focusing on our connection, everything we mean to each other, everything we've overcome together." Harry nodded, suddenly nervous. This felt momentous, like a commitment deeper than any words could express. "Ready?" Luna asked, extending her hands palm up. Harry placed his hands in hers, feeling the familiar tingle of her magic. "Ready." They closed their eyes, summoning their Patronus memories. Harry felt the warm energy building, as it had before, but this time, aware of Luna doing the same opposite him, the energy felt different, resonating between them like harmonizing music. "Now," Luna whispered. "Cordis Patronum," they said in perfect unison. The effect was immediate and extraordinary. The Patronus energy didn't just fill Harry from within, it exploded outward and then rebounded, creating a visible dome of silvery light that encompassed both of them. Where their hands met, the light was brightest, streams of silver and gold intertwining like living threads. And the emotional connection, it was nothing like the muted awareness he'd experienced before. Now Harry could feel Luna with crystal clarity, as if her soul was laid bare before him. Her fierce intelligence, her boundless curiosity, her unwavering loyalty, her deep capacity for love, all of it washed over him in waves. He was dimly aware that she must be experiencing the same from him, all his fears, his courage, his doubts, his determination, his love for her that had grown from confused attraction into something solid and essential. "Harry," Luna whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "Look." He opened his eyes to see their patron muses, Stag and Hare, circling them within the dome of light, moving in perfect synchronization. But they weren't the silvery blue of normal patron muses. Instead, they glowed with a golden radiance, more substantial and somehow more alive. The Patronus heart manifested externally, Luna explained, her eyes wide with surprise. "I didn't think that was possible." The stag approached Harry, bowing its magnificent head. When Harry reached out to touch it, his hand met solid warmth rather than the misty insubstantiality of a normal Patronus. At the same time, Luna was stroking the hare, which had hopped into her lap like a pet seeking affection. "They're almost physical," Harry marveled. "A true manifestation of our magical cores," Luna said. "This is beyond anything Mum's research suggested was possible." As they watched, the stag and hare began to change. The stag's antlers grew more elaborate, incorporating spiral patterns that reminded Harry of Luna's more whimsical drawings. Meanwhile, the hare developed more defined musculature and a prouder bearing, resembling Harry's stag in its dignified posture. "They're adopting elements of each other," Luna observed, fascinated. "Our magical signatures are harmonizing." Harry could feel it happening, a subtle shift within him, as if Luna's magical essence was gently intertwining with his own. Not replacing or overwhelming, but complementing, enhancing, filling gaps he hadn't known existed. "Is this the permanent bond you mentioned?" he asked. Luna nodded, her expression solemn. "Yes. Even after the visible effects fade, our magic will remain connected. Are you okay with that?" Harry thought about all the bonds that had shaped his life, the sacrificial protection of his mother, the prophetic connection to Voldemort, the chosen brotherhood with Ron and Hermione. Those had all been thrust upon him by circumstance or others' choices. This bond with Luna was different. It was a conscious choice, made with full awareness and acceptance. It felt right in a way nothing else had. More than okay, he assured her. It feels like something that was always meant to be. Luna's smile was radiant. That's exactly how it feels to me too. They remained within the glowing dome as the sun rose fully above the mountains, their patron uses gradually fading back into the ambient magic surrounding them. But Harry could still feel the connection, a warm presence in his mind like a newly opened door that would never fully close. When they finally stood and the last visible traces of the spell dissipated, Harry found he could still sense Luna's emotions and general well-being, a background awareness as natural as his own heartbeat. Useful for a battle, he commented as they walked back to the cottage, where Ron and Hermione would be waking soon. Among other things, Luna agreed with a small smile that made Harry's heart race. They didn't discuss the bond with Ron and Hermione, there wasn't time, and Harry wasn't sure how to explain something so profoundly personal and magical. Instead, they focused on their immediate plan, getting to Hogsmeade and finding a way into Hogwarts. Aberforth might help, Hermione suggested as they broke camp. He's still in the village, according to the last order update. Worth a try, Harry agreed. We'll apparate to the outskirts and approach under the invisibility cloak. As they prepared to leave, Harry caught Luna looking at him with an expression of quiet contentment despite the danger ahead. What? He asked softly. Just appreciating the moment, she replied. Whatever happens at Hogwarts, we've already won something important. Harry understood completely. In a world torn apart by war, they'd found something whole and true in each other. Whatever happened next couldn't take that away. Hogsmeade was under curfew, patrolled by Death Eaters who had set a caterwauling charm to detect arrivals. Their apparition triggered the alarm immediately, forcing them to flee down a side alley where, to their surprise, a door opened and a gruff voice ordered them inside. Aberforth Dumbledore was even less welcoming than Harry remembered, but he provided crucial information, a secret passage into Hogwarts through a portrait of his sister Ariana. Even more surprising was who came to escort them through the passage, Neville Longbottom, almost unrecognizable with his scarred face and hardened expression. Luna! Neville exclaimed, embracing her tightly. We heard you escaped after Christmas but didn't know if you were safe. I found Harry, Luna said simply, as if that explained everything. Perhaps, Harry realized, it did. The passage led them to the Room of Requirement, which had been transformed into a headquarters for Dumbledore's army. Dozens of students lived there now, hiding from the Carrow's brutal punishments. Their reaction to Harry's arrival was overwhelming, cheers, tears, a surge of renewed hope that made Harry's chest tight with responsibility. They've been waiting for you to come back, Luna murmured, sensing his emotion through their bond. You represent hope. We need to find the diadem, Harry reminded her quietly. Before Voldemort realizes we're here. Luna nodded, turning to the gathered DA members. We need information about Ravenclaw's lost diadem. Has anyone seen anything matching its description? A tiara-like object, silver with a sapphire, possibly hidden somewhere in the castle. The room fell silent, students exchanging confused looks. Then, surprisingly, it was Cho Chang who spoke up. There's a statue of Rowena Ravenclaw in our common room. She's wearing the diadem. I could show you what it looks like. That would help, Harry said, ignoring the flicker of awkwardness at addressing his ex-girlfriend while standing beside Luna. Through their new bond, he felt Luna's brief amusement at his discomfort, followed by her usual focused determination. No jealousy, no insecurity, just pragmatic acceptance that Cho's knowledge was useful to their mission. Before they could leave to view the statue, however, the room's door burst open again. Ginny, Fred, and George Weasley entered, followed by Lee Jordan and Dean Thomas. More reunions, more explanations, precious minutes ticking away while Harry grew increasingly anxious. Harry, Luna said suddenly, her voice cutting through the chaos. I think I know where it is. Everyone turned to look at her. The Room of Hidden Things, she continued. Where you told me you saw Malfoy last year. You said he had something silver. Harry's eyes widened as the memory clicked into place. The vanishing cabinet. He was using the room of hidden things to repair it. And he had something silver. Which he might have hidden there, Luna finished. It's worth checking before we search the entire castle. The room of hidden things? Neville asked. You mean the room of requirement can become a storage room? It's where people have hidden objects for centuries, Harry explained. I've been there before. Excitement rippled through the group, but Harry raised his hand for quiet. Luna and I will check the room. Ron and Hermione, you need to find something that can destroy Horcruxes. Basilisk fangs from the Chamber of Secrets would work. Ron nodded grimly. On it. Hermione speaks a bit of Parseltongue now, enough to open the chamber, we think. The rest of you, spread the word quietly. The Order of the Phoenix is coming. We need to prepare for evacuation and possibly battle. Harry met each determined face. This ends tonight, one way or another. As the DA members dispersed to their tasks, Harry and Luna slipped out of the crowded room of requirement, waiting in the corridor until it emptied completely. Ready? Harry asked, pacing before the blank wall. I need the place where everything is hidden, he murmured 3 times. A door materialized, smaller and less elaborate than the one to the DA headquarters. Harry pushed it open, revealing the cathedral-sized room filled with centuries of hidden objects, broken furniture, banned items, forgotten treasures piled in towering heaps. It could be anywhere, Harry said, overwhelmed by the task. But Luna was already moving forward with purpose. Not anywhere. Somewhere significant to Malfoy's task last year. Near the vanishing cabinet, perhaps. Harry led the way through the maze of hidden objects toward where he remembered the cabinet being located. As they walked, he felt a disturbing sensation through their new bond, a cold, prickling awareness that intensified as they moved deeper into the room. Do you feel that? He asked Luna, who nodded, her expression troubled. Dark magic. Strong and hungry somehow. She shivered. Like it's aware of us. They reached the cabinet, but there was no sign of a diadem. Harry turned in a slow circle, trying to remember what else had been in this area when he'd seen Malfoy here. There was a bust, he said suddenly. An old stone head on top of a cabinet. Malfoy put something on it when he heard me coming. This way. They found the stone bust exactly where Harry remembered it, perched on top of a discolored old wardrobe. And there, resting on the bust's bald head, was a tarnished tiara. That's it, Luna whispered, her eyes wide. Ravenclaw's diadem. Harry reached for it, but Luna caught his wrist. Wait. It's dangerous to touch directly. The Horcrux might fight back. She was right, of course. They'd learned that lesson painfully with the locket. Harry removed his jacket and carefully used it to wrap around the diadem without touching it. As soon as the fabric enclosed the Horcrux, Harry felt a surge of malevolence through his scar, distant but unmistakable. Voldemort had sensed something. Time was running out. We need to get back to the others, he said urgently. But as they turned to leave, they found their path blocked. Draco Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle stood between them and the exit, wands drawn. Well, Malfoy drawled, though his face looked haggard, none of his usual confidence in his stance. Potter and Lovegood. The Dark Lord will reward us handsomely for capturing you. Your Dark Lord is about to become mortal again, Harry said, carefully tucking the wrapped diadem into his moleskin pouch. You might want to reconsider your loyalties, Malfoy. Crabbe sneered. Always so superior, Potter. But you're outnumbered now. Luna stepped forward, her wand held loosely in a way Harry had come to recognize as deceptively casual. Actually, we're not outnumbered at all. Before Malfoy's group could react, Luna flicked her wand in a complex pattern. Specialis revelio hominum, she murmured. Instantly, 3 figures materialized behind Malfoy's group, Fred, George, and Lee, who had apparently followed them under disillusionment charms. She always could see through concealment charms, Fred said cheerfully, his wand pointed at Crabbe's back. Bit unnerving, really. Malfoy's face drained of what little color it had. How did your magical signatures disrupt the ambient magic of the room, Luna explained matter-of-factly. It creates ripples. Simple, really, if you know what to look for. Through their bond, Harry felt Luna's calm focus, completely unrattled by the confrontation. He drew strength from it, stepping forward confidently. Lower your wands, he ordered Malfoy's group. You're surrounded, and we don't have time for this. For a moment, it seemed like Malfoy might comply. But then Crabbe, always the most volatile of the trio, lashed out with unexpected viciousness. Avada Kedavra, he shouted, aiming not at Harry but at Luna. Several things happened simultaneously. Harry felt the spell through their bond like an approaching tsunami of malice. Without conscious thought, he flung himself toward Luna as Fred and George fired stunning spells at Crabbe. The killing curse missed Luna by inches, striking a pile of hidden objects that exploded from the impact. Run! Harry shouted, grabbing Luna's hand as debris rained down around them. But Crabbe wasn't finished. His face contorted with rage, he pointed his wand at a nearby tower of junk. Incendio, he roared, but what burst from his wand wasn't ordinary fire. It was fiend fire, cursed flames that took the form of monstrous creatures, serpents, chimeras, dragons composed of living fire that grew and multiplied with unnatural speed. You idiot! Malfoy screamed at Crabbe. You'll kill us all. The fiend fire surged forward, consuming everything in its path with terrifying hunger. Harry yanked Luna toward the nearest clear pathway as Fred, George, and Lee scattered in other directions. The exit! George shouted over the roar of the magical flames. Everyone head for the exit. Harry and Luna ran, dodging falling debris and leaping flames. Through their bond, Harry could feel Luna's focused calculation as she analyzed escape routes, rejecting and selecting paths with lightning speed. This way, she called, pulling him down a narrow aisle between towering junk heaps. It's longer but safer. Behind them, Harry heard screams as the fiend fire caught up to Malfoy's group. Despite everything, he couldn't leave them to such a horrible death. We have to help them, he said, already turning back. Luna nodded without hesitation. There. She pointed to a stack of old broomsticks leaning against a cupboard. We can fly above the flames. They each grabbed a broomstick, ancient school models, but functional. Mounting quickly, they kicked off, rising above the inferno that was rapidly consuming the entire room of hidden things. The heat was blistering even 10 feet above the flames. Harry spotted Malfoy and Goyle climbing an unstable mountain of desks, Crabbe nowhere to be seen. There, he shouted to Luna, pointing. Together they swooped down, Harry grabbing Malfoy while Luna pulled Goyle onto her broom despite his greater weight. The added burden made the old broomstick sluggish, but they managed to gain altitude again, flying toward the exit where Fred, George, and Lee were already waiting, frantically waving them forward. They burst through the door with seconds to spare, tumbling onto the corridor floor as the room of requirement sealed itself, containing the fiend fire within. Harry lay on his back, gasping for breath, acutely aware of Luna's racing heart through their bond. Crabbe, Malfoy choked out, his face streaked with soot and tears. He didn't make it, Harry confirmed grimly. I'm sorry. Malfoy stared at him with hollow eyes. You saved us. Why? Before Harry could answer, Luna spoke softly. Because that's who Harry is. She turned to Harry. The diadem, the fiend fire would have destroyed it. Harry pulled the moleskin pouch from around his neck and carefully removed the wrapped diadem. When he opened the jacket, they saw the tiara was blackened and twisted, a dark substance like blood leaking from the sapphire at its center. It's destroyed, Harry confirmed, feeling no trace of the malevolent presence it had contained before. That's 4 Horcruxes down. Fred let out a low whistle. Would someone like to explain what the bloody hell is going on? But before Harry could begin to explain, the castle shook with a distant explosion. Moments later, Professor McGonagall's magically amplified voice echoed through the corridors, all students to assemble in the Great Hall immediately. Hogwarts is under attack. This is not a drill. He's here, Harry said, the pain in his scar confirming it. Voldemort's attacking the castle. Through the bond, he felt Luna's surge of determination, her fear transmuted into focused readiness. Then we finish this tonight, she said simply. The Great Hall was chaos, students being organized for evacuation, members of the Order of the Phoenix arriving through secret passages, professors establishing defensive positions. Ron and Hermione found them almost immediately, clutching a handful of basilisk fangs. We got them. Hermione exclaimed breathlessly. And we destroyed the cup. The diadem's gone too, Harry told them, quickly explaining about the room of hidden things and the fiendfire. So that just leaves the snake, Ron said. And then you know who himself. A magical shockwave rippled through the castle, rattling the enchanted ceiling of the Great Hall. Outside, magical barriers shimmered as Voldemort's forces began their assault. They're testing the defenses, Professor McGonagall said grimly, approaching their group. They won't hold forever. Potter, what's our strategy? Harry felt the weight of everyone's expectation, hundreds of eyes turning to him for direction. Through the bond, Luna sent a wave of calm confidence, steadying him. We need to find Nagini, Voldemort's snake, he told McGonagall. She needs to be killed before Voldemort himself can be defeated. McGonagall nodded sharply. And where is this snake likely to be? With Voldemort, Harry replied. He keeps her close. Then we need to locate you-know-who without confronting him directly, McGonagall concluded. A reconnaissance mission. I'll go, Harry said immediately. We'll go, Luna corrected, stepping to his side. Harry wanted to protest, to keep her safe, but the determined set of Luna's jaw told him it would be futile. Besides, through their bond, he could feel her absolute conviction that they were stronger together, and she was right. We can move more stealthily than a larger group, he conceded. But we'll need to know where Voldemort is positioning himself. The shrieking shack, came a new voice. Severus Snape stood at the entrance to the Great Hall, his black robes billowing despite the absence of wind. Wands immediately pointed in his direction. Snape had been public enemy number one since Dumbledore's death. But the former headmaster raised his empty hands, his expression unchanged. The Dark Lord commands from the Shrieking Shack, beyond the range of the castle's defenses but with clear sight lines to monitor the battle. Snape's dark eyes fixed on Harry. He has the snake in a magical enclosure for protection. He knows you're hunting his treasures. Why are you telling us this? McGonagall demanded, her wand unwavering. Why should we believe Albus's murderer? Snape's expression flickered, something almost like pain crossing his features. Because, Minerva, some vows transcend even death. He looked back at Harry. Ask Miss Lovegood. She can see whether I'm lying. All eyes turned to Luna, who was studying Snape with her head slightly tilted, silver eyes unusually focused. He's telling the truth, she said after a moment. His magical aura is fragmented and damaged, but the core intention is genuine. Snape inclined his head slightly toward Luna. Perceptive as always, Miss Lovegood. To Harry, he added, the shack is guarded, but there are ways in the Dark Lord doesn't know about. The tunnel from the Whomping Willow remains accessible. Before anyone could question him further, another explosion rocked the castle, more violent than the last. Snape turned toward the sound. The outer defenses are falling. I must return to my position. Make haste, Potter. The Dark Lord grows more unstable by the hour. With that cryptic statement, he swept from the hall, his robes melting into the shadows of the corridor. Can we trust him? McGonagall asked, looking troubled. I don't know about Snape, Harry replied honestly. But I trust Luna. If she says he's being truthful about Voldemort's location, that's where we need to go. The castle shook again, dust falling from the enchanted ceiling. Outside, flashes of spellfire illuminated the darkening sky. Go, McGonagall urged. The Order will defend the castle as long as possible. Mr. Weasley, Miss Granger, will you accompany them or remain with the defense? Ron and Hermione exchanged a quick glance. We'll help defend the castle, Hermione decided. Harry and Luna work well together, and a larger group would be more easily detected. Harry nodded gratefully. The truth was, with the bond between him and Luna, they could communicate more efficiently than a larger group. And Ron and Hermione's skills would be valuable in the castle's defense. Be careful, Hermione said, hugging first Harry, then Luna. And come back. We will, Luna promised with such serene certainty that even Hermione seemed reassured. As the battle began in earnest, Harry and Luna slipped away from the Great Hall, moving swiftly through the castle's secret passages toward the grounds. The invisibility cloak covered them both as they emerged near the Whomping Willow, which was thrashing violently in response to the magical energy saturating the air. How do we get past it without Crookshanks? Harry whispered, remembering how Hermione's cat had helped them years ago by pressing the knot that immobilized the tree. Luna pointed her wand at a long fallen branch. Wingardium Leviosa, she murmured, using the levitation charm to maneuver the branch toward the knot at the base of the tree. The willow froze, its branches suspended mid-swing. Harry and Luna darted forward, finding the entrance to the tunnel and slipping inside before the tree could recover. Lumos, Harry whispered, illuminating the narrow earthen passage. Stay close. They moved as quickly as they dared through the cramped tunnel, bent almost double to avoid hitting their heads on the low ceiling. Through their bond, Harry could feel Luna's calm focus and underlying tension, not fear exactly, but heightened awareness. I can feel the snake, Harry murmured as they approached the end of the tunnel. She's there, with him. I can feel it too, Luna replied softly. Through you. It's strange. Nagini isn't a normal snake. She's a Horcrux, Harry reminded her. No, it's more than that. Luna paused, considering. Her magical signature is more complex than a mere container for a soul fragment. There's something human about her aura. Harry filed this observation away. Luna's magical perceptions had proven valuable too many times to dismiss, and focused on their immediate situation. They had reached the end of the tunnel, where a small opening led into the ground floor of the Shrieking Shack. Voices, he whispered, extinguishing his wand light. They crept closer to the opening, pressing against the earthen wall to listen. Cannot fail, Lucius, came Voldemort's high, cold voice. Your family has disappointed me enough already. My lord, I assure you, the inner defenses will fall within the hour. Lucius Malfoy's voice was thin with fear. But Potter, there are rumors he's been seen in the castle. Of course he has, Voldemort said silkily. Where else would the boy go in his final hours? Sentimental to the end, like Dumbledore. Through the bond, Harry felt Luna's mind working rapidly, analyzing their options. They couldn't face Voldemort directly, not until Nagini was destroyed. But how to separate the snake from its master? Harry closed his eyes, focusing on their connection. We need a distraction, he thought intentionally, directing it toward Luna. To his surprise, he felt her receive the thought, a ripple of acknowledgement flowing back to him. The Patronus heart, came Luna's response in his mind, not as words exactly, but as an impression of her intent. Together. Harry understood immediately. The synchronized Patronus heart they'd cast earlier had created a deeper connection than either had anticipated, one that now allowed a crude form of telepathic communication. Silently, they joined hands in the darkness of the tunnel. Harry closed his eyes, focusing on the warm core of energy they'd established that morning. Luna did the same, and he could feel her drawing on their shared magical link. Cordis Patronum, they whispered in unison, barely audible even to themselves. The magic responded instantly, flowing between them and expanding outward in a controlled wave rather than the visible dome of their earlier casting. This time, they directed the energy with a specific intent, not just protection, but concealment and distraction. Golden light illuminated them from within, visible only to each other's eyes. Their patron muses, the stag and hare, still bearing elements of each other, materialized beside them, solid and warm as they had been that morning. Send them ahead, Luna's thought came clearly through their enhanced bond. One to distract, one to attack. Harry nodded, directing his stag with mental commands. The golden creature moved forward, slipping through the opening into the shrieking shack. Luna's hare followed, its movements almost imperceptible. Inside the room, conversation abruptly stopped. Then came Voldemort's startled hiss, "What magic is this?" Chaos erupted, shouts, spells firing, Nagini's angry hissing. Harry and Luna moved instantly, darting through the opening under cover of the confusion. The scene that met them was one of bizarre beauty and danger. Harry's golden stag was charging across the room, its antlers lowered toward Voldemort, drawing curses and shields from the Dark Lord and the two Death Eaters present, Lucius Malfoy and Antonin Dolohov. Meanwhile, Luna's hare had leapt directly onto the magical sphere containing Nagini, its golden form disrupting the protective enchantments with ripples of light. "Potter's Patronus!" Dolohov shouted. "He must be here." But the Patronus heart magic had rendered Harry and Luna not invisible but unnoticeable, a subtle difference that allowed them to move through the room without drawing direct attention, so long as they didn't physically touch anyone. They circled toward Nagini's enclosure, where Luna's hair was systematically weakening the protective barrier, creating hairline fractures in its surface. The massive snake inside was striking frantically at the golden hair, her fangs passing harmlessly through its magical form. Harry drew one of the basilisk fangs they'd taken from Ron and Hermione, readying it as Luna worked to further disrupt the magical enclosure. Through their bond, they coordinated without words, timing their movements precisely. Now, Luna's thought came as her hair delivered a particularly powerful kick to the weakened barrier. The enclosure shattered like glass, fragments of magic dispersing into the air. Before Nagini could escape, Harry lunged forward, basilisk fang raised. "Potter!" Voldemort screamed, finally sensing his presence through their own twisted connection. But it was too late. Harry drove the basilisk fang deep into Nagini's skull, feeling the same dark resistance he'd experienced with the diary and the locket. The snake convulsed, black ichor pouring from the wound as a terrible scream filled the room, not from Nagini but from the fragment of Voldemort's soul being destroyed. No! Voldemort's fury exploded outward in a wave of pure magical force, shattering windows and splintering wood. The blast knocked Harry and Luna off their feet, disrupting their Patronus heart concealment. They became fully visible as they crashed into opposite walls of the decrepit room. Pain lanced through Harry's body from the impact, but worse was the echoing agony from Luna through their bond. She'd hit the wall harder, her head striking rotting wood with a sickening crack. "Luna," he gasped, trying to regain his footing. Voldemort stood in the center of the room, his serpentine face contorted with rage and something else, fear. With Nagini's destruction, all his Horcruxes were gone. He was mortal. "You dare," he whispered, raising his wand toward Harry. "You dare destroy pieces of Lord Voldemort's soul." Harry braced for the killing curse, but in that moment, something unexpected happened. The front wall of the shrieking shack exploded inward, showering the room with debris. Through the dust and chaos came a familiar voice, "Get away from my students, Tom." Minerva McGonagall stood in the gaping hole, her wand extended, magic crackling around her like electricity. Behind her were Flitwick, Sprout, and other Hogwarts professors, a united front of fierce protection. Voldemort's momentary surprise gave Harry the opening he needed. He scrambled across the room to Luna, who was struggling to sit up, blood trickling from a cut on her temple. "I'm okay," she murmured, though Harry could feel her dizziness and pain through their bond. "Help me up." As spells began to fly between Voldemort and the professors, Harry pulled Luna to her feet, supporting her weight as they moved toward the back exit of the shack. "We need to get back to the castle," he told her. "This isn't the right moment to face him, not with you injured." For once, Luna didn't argue. Through their bond, he could feel her tactical assessment. They were both magically drained from the Patronus heart casting, physically compromised from Voldemort's blast, and the professors were providing the perfect cover for their retreat. They slipped out the back door of the shack as McGonagall and the others forced Voldemort to focus on defense rather than pursuit. The night air was filled with the sounds and lights of battle from Hogwarts, where the main conflict raged. "The tunnel will take too long," Luna said, her voice stronger now as she recovered. "We need to move faster." Harry looked around desperately, then spotted two Thestrals at the edge of the forest, drawn by the chaos and death of battle. "There," he pointed. "Can you ride?" Luna nodded, already moving toward the skeletal horses. "They'll help us. They know we can see them." Sure enough, the Thestrals approached willingly, lowering themselves to allow Harry and Luna to mount. As soon as they were seated, the creatures launched into the air, powerful wings carrying them over the battle-torn grounds toward Hogwarts Castle. From above, the scene was apocalyptic. Giants rampaged at the forest's edge. Acromantulas swarmed the outer walls. Death Eaters and Order members dueled across the grounds, spells illuminating the darkness like deadly fireworks. The Thestrals deposited them on the relatively clear area of the astronomy tower before wheeling away to rejoin the night sky. Luna steadied herself against the parapet, her face pale but determined. "Voldemort will follow," she said, her eyes scanning the chaos below. "He'll come for you directly now." Harry nodded grimly. "Good. We need to end this before anyone else dies for me." Through their bond, he felt Luna's immediate objection, not to facing Voldemort, but to his framing of the situation. "They're not dying for you, Harry," she said aloud, her voice uncharacteristically stern. "They're fighting for themselves, for a world without his darkness. Don't diminish their choices." The rebuke was gentle but firm, and Harry felt its truth. Luna had always seen him clearly, not as the boy who lived or the chosen one, but simply as Harry, neither diminishing his importance nor exaggerating it. "You're right," he acknowledged. "So what do we do now?" Luna was silent for a moment, her eyes taking on that distant quality they got when she was seeing beyond the obvious. "We need to draw him to a place of our choosing. Somewhere with magical significance, where our strengths will be amplified." "The Great Hall," Harry suggested. "It's the magical heart of Hogwarts." Luna shook her head. "Too many people. Too many potential casualties." She looked up suddenly, her eyes clearing. "The Chamber of Secrets. It's where you defeated a piece of him before. The magic there remembers that victory." Harry stared at her. "The chamber? But, magic leaves echoes, Harry. Imprints. Your triumph over the Diary Horcrux created a magical precedent in that space." Luna's certainty flowed through their bond. "And it's defensible, one way in, one way out. No innocent bystanders." The more Harry considered it, the more strategic it seemed. "How do we get him to follow us there?" Luna smiled, that dreamy, slightly mischievous smile that had become so dear to him. "We tell him. Directly. Through your connection." Harry's hand went instinctively to his scar. The link between him and Voldemort had always been a violation, a unwanted intrusion. But perhaps, just this once, it could be useful. "I'll need to lower my occlumency shields," he said hesitantly. "He could get into my mind, see our plan." "Not if we channel it through our bond first," Luna countered. "The Patronus heart connection gives us a secure pathway. We can use it to control what he sees." It was a crazy, brilliant plan, exactly the kind of magical innovation Luna excelled at. Using their bond as a filter, they could project exactly what they wanted Voldemort to see, Harry, alone in the chamber, making his final stand. "It might work," Harry admitted. "But you can't be in the chamber when he comes." It's too dangerous. Luna's expression grew serious. I won't be visible, but I will be there. We're stronger together, Harry. That's the whole point of the bond. Before he could argue further, the tower shook with a massive explosion from below. The battle was intensifying, and time was running out. Okay, Harry conceded. But we do this carefully. In and out. Draw him in, finish it, no unnecessary risks. Luna nodded, taking his hands in hers. Focus on our connection first. Feel the Patronus heart between us. Harry closed his eyes, sinking into the warm, golden energy that bound them together. It was easier now, more natural, as if this magical link had always been part of them. Now, think of your connection to Voldemort, Luna guided. Not with fear, but with purpose. It's a tool we're using, nothing more. Harry let his occlumency shields thin carefully, feeling the cold, serpentine presence of Voldemort's mind immediately pressing against his consciousness. But this time, instead of fighting it or surrendering to it, he channeled the contact through the golden warmth of his bond with Luna. The effect was immediate and startling. Instead of Voldemort invading his mind, Harry was projecting outward, sending specific images, himself descending into the Chamber of Secrets, alone and determined for a final confrontation. Come and face me yourself, Tom, he added to the projected thought. No more hiding behind your Death Eaters. No more Horcruxes to save you. Just you and me, where it all began. He felt Voldemort's rage and, more importantly, his dark curiosity. The chamber held significance for the heir of Slytherin too. The symmetry appealed to his grandiose sense of destiny. I'm waiting, Harry added, before abruptly severing the connection. He opened his eyes to find Luna watching him intently, her silver gaze reflecting the spellfire illuminating the night sky. He's coming, Harry confirmed. I could feel his decision. Luna nodded. Then we should be there to meet him. She raised her wand, casting a quick diagnostic charm over both of them. Our magical reserves are low from the Patronus heart, but we have enough for what needs to be done. They moved swiftly through the battle-damaged castle, avoiding the main fighting as they made their way to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. The ghost was absent, likely hiding from the chaos elsewhere in the castle. The entrance to the chamber opened readily at Harry's Parseltongue command. He hadn't been sure he could still speak it without the Horcrux inside him, but the skill remained, perhaps permanently imprinted on his magic. The long slide down into the darkness felt like descending into memory itself. The last time Harry had entered the chamber, he'd been a frightened 12-year-old armed with nothing but desperate courage and a phoenix's help. Now he returned as a man who had faced death many times, bound by love and magic to a woman whose unique perspective had expanded his understanding of what was possible. They landed in the damp, bone-strewn antechamber and proceeded quickly to the main chamber, where the massive statue of Salazar Slytherin still loomed in the greenish gloom. The basilisk skeleton lay where it had fallen 5 years ago, an enormous ribcage of yellowed bone stretching across the stone floor. He'll come soon, Harry said, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. You need to hide. Luna nodded, but instead of seeking physical concealment, she raised her wand and performed a complex series of movements. Perceptio obscuro, she murmured. Sensus confundus. Presentia delere. The spells settled over her like a veil, not making her invisible exactly, but causing Harry's eyes to slide away from her location, his mind unwilling to register her presence despite knowing she was there. Perception manipulation, Luna's voice came from the spot his eyes couldn't quite focus on. More effective than mere invisibility against someone like Voldemort. He won't see me unless I want him to. Harry nodded, positioning himself in the center of the chamber, directly before the statue of Slytherin. Stay back until the right moment, he said to the space where he knew Luna was standing. We'll only get one chance at this. Through their bond, he felt her acknowledgement, and something more, a surge of emotion so powerful it nearly buckled his knees. Love, faith, determination, all flowing from Luna to him, strengthening his resolve. I love you too, he said softly to the apparently empty chamber. Whatever happens. They didn't have to wait long. A cold wind preceded Voldemort's arrival, extinguishing the magical torches that lined the chamber walls. Only their wand lights remained, creating isolated pools of illumination in the vast darkness. Voldemort appeared at the chamber entrance, his white, snake-like face reflecting the dim light. He was alone, as Harry had hoped, too arrogant to bring Death Eaters into what he considered a sacred confrontation between himself and the boy who had defied him. "Harry Potter," Voldemort said softly, his voice carrying easily in the silent chamber. "How fitting that we should end where your meddling in my affairs began. The Chamber of Secrets, my ancestors' legacy." "Hello, Tom," Harry replied steadily, using Voldemort's birth name deliberately. "Took you long enough to get here." Rage flickered across Voldemort's face at the use of his Muggle name, but he controlled it, gliding forward with unnatural grace. "Always so brave, Harry Potter. So ready to die." He tilted his head, studying Harry with those red, slit-pupiled eyes. "And yet, something is different about you. Your magic has changed." Harry said nothing, watching as Voldemort circled him slowly, maintaining a cautious distance. Through the bond, he could sense Luna moving silently around the perimeter of the chamber, positioning herself behind Voldemort. "No matter," Voldemort continued when Harry didn't respond. "The changes will not save you. My Horcruxes may be gone, but I remain the greatest wizard who ever lived. Lord Voldemort cannot be defeated by a boy, no matter how lucky." "It wasn't luck that destroyed your Horcruxes," Harry replied. "It was love, the magic you've never understood." Voldemort's lipless mouth twisted in a sneer. "Love. Dumbledore's favorite solution to everything. Where is his love now, Harry Potter? Where was it when Severus Snape struck him down on the astronomy tower?" "Speaking of Snape," Harry said, deliberately changing the subject to buy Luna more time to get into position. "He wasn't as loyal as you thought, was he?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed Voldemort's face. "Severus served me faithfully. Severus Snape loved my mother," Harry stated flatly. "Everything he did after her death was to protect her son, me. He was Dumbledore's man, not yours." Fury blazed in Voldemort's red eyes. "Lies," he hissed, raising his wand. "Enough talk. I did not come here to bandy words with a child. Avada Kedavra." The killing curse shot toward Harry, but he was ready. Dumbledore had once told him that Voldemort's greatest weakness was his predictability, his reliance on the killing curse, his inability to imagine solutions beyond brute magical force. "Expelliarmus." Harry countered, putting all his remaining magical strength behind the simple disarming spell. The red and green beams collided in midair, creating the golden cage of priori incantatem that Harry remembered from the graveyard. But this time, something different happened. The golden light pulsed, drawing energy from the Patronus heart bond still active between Harry and Luna. Voldemort's eyes widened in shock as the golden cage expanded, phantasmal shapes emerging from his wand, not just his recent victims, but fragments of all the souls his Horcruxes had contained, now returned to confront their murderer. "What is this magic?" Voldemort gasped, struggling to maintain his grip on his wand as the connection between their spells grew stronger. "It's the power you know not," Harry answered, feeling Luna's magic joining with his through their bond, reinforcing the connection rather than breaking it. "Not just love, but understanding. Seeing beyond the obvious. Accepting that there are forms of magic beyond your comprehension." The spectral form circled Voldemort, not attacking but containing, limiting his movement as he struggled against the inexorably strengthening spell connection. Harry could feel Luna's perception manipulation charms dropping as she channeled all her magic into their bond, amplifying the effect of priori incantatem beyond anything Harry had experienced before. "Now, Luna." Harry called as he felt the magic reaching its peak. Luna stepped forward from behind Voldemort, her wand raised, no longer hidden by her perceptual charms. "Anima Revelio," she cried, casting directly at the back of Voldemort's head. The spell, another of her mother's creations, struck Voldemort between his shoulders, causing him to arch in shock. Instantly, his magical core became visible as a swirling, corrupted mass of darkness at the center of his chest, fractured and unstable from the creation and destruction of so many Horcruxes. Finite ultimatum. Harry and Luna cast in perfect unison, their voices blending as their magic had, directing the combined spell directly at the exposed magical core. The effect was catastrophic for Voldemort. The spell, designed to end enchantments, struck his damaged magical core with the force of a magical detonation. Voldemort's body seemed to implode, collapsing inward as his unstable magic turned against itself. His scream echoed through the chamber as his physical form disintegrated, leaving nothing but dust settling on the damp stone floor. The silence that followed was absolute. Harry stared at the empty space where Voldemort had stood, unable to quite believe it was over. Through the bond, he felt Luna's exhaustion, triumph, and wonder, mirroring his own emotions. Is he? Harry couldn't quite finish the question. Luna moved to his side, her steps unsteady from magical exertion. Yes, she confirmed, her voice soft but certain. His magical core was already compromised from creating Horcruxes. Our combined spell simply completed the process of dissolution. Harry lowered his wand slowly, feeling the golden energy of the Patronus heart finally fading as their magical reserves reached their limit. We did it, he murmured, the reality slowly sinking in. It's over. Luna took his hand, her fingers cool against his skin. This part is over, she corrected gently. But our story isn't. Harry turned to her, really looking at her for the first time since the battle began. Her blonde hair was darkened with moisture from the chamber, her face smudged with dirt and blood from earlier injuries. But her eyes were as clear and bright as ever, seeing him, truly seeing him, as no one else ever had. No, he agreed, a smile slowly spreading across his face. Our story is just beginning. Epilogue. 3 months later, the cottage overlooking the sea was small but perfect, a wedding gift from Bill and Fleur, who had found it abandoned near Shell Cottage and helped restore it. Morning sunlight streamed through the open windows, catching on the prism crystals Luna had hung from the ceiling, casting rainbows across the whitewashed walls. Harry sat at the kitchen table, the Daily Prophet open before him, though he wasn't really reading it. His attention was on Luna, who was moving about the kitchen, preparing tea in her unique way, adding ingredients no conventional recipe would include, humming softly to herself. Through their bond, which had indeed become permanent after the synchronized Patronus heart spell, he could feel her contentment, her creative mind already busy with plans and ideas despite the early hour. The Scamanders replied to your letter, he said, nodding toward the pile of correspondence on the counter. Newt says he'd be delighted to review your mother's research on magical creature perception. Luna smiled, bringing 2 steaming mugs to the table. Wonderful. And did Hermione's package arrive? Yesterday. More books on magical theory for your collection. Harry sipped the tea, which tasted like sunshine and spices and something undefinable. She's still trying to understand exactly what we did in the chamber. She won't find it in books, Luna said serenely. What we did hasn't been written about yet. But it will be. Harry glanced at the half-completed manuscript on Luna's desk in the corner, Intuitive Magic, Alternative Approaches to Conventional Theory. After the battle, when the Ministry had come offering Harry any position he wanted, he had surprised everyone by declining. Instead, he and Luna had retreated to this coastal sanctuary to recover, to process, and to document the unique magical discoveries their partnership had yielded. How's the writing coming? He asked, though he could feel her satisfaction with the morning's progress through their bond. The chapter on the Patronus heart is nearly complete, Luna replied, absently twirling her wand through her fingers. I think it might help people, especially those who struggle with traditional Patronus casting. Harry nodded, thinking of Neville, who had finally produced a Patronus during the Battle of Hogwarts after Luna had quickly adapted her teaching method to suit his specific magical strengths. You'll revolutionize magical education, he said, only half joking. McGonagall already wants to incorporate your methods into the Hogwarts curriculum. Luna tilted her head thoughtfully. Perhaps someday. But first, we have our expedition to prepare for. The expedition, their planned 6-month journey to magical communities around the world, studying alternative magical traditions and documenting techniques overlooked by conventional European wizardry. Xenophilius would join them for portions of it, his conspiracy theories having gained surprising credibility after several of his more outlandish claims about ministry corruption proved accurate. Ron thinks we're mental, Harry remarked, grinning. Trading fame and cushy ministry jobs for, traipsing around looking for imaginary creatures, as he puts it. Ron's perspective is limited by what he's been taught to see, Luna replied without judgment. But he's learning. Hermione's been introducing him to Muggle scientific concepts. Did you know he can explain atomic theory now? Harry laughed, imagining Ron earnestly explaining electrons to Arthur Weasley. We've all changed, haven't we? That's what living does, Luna said simply. Change is the natural state of being. Harry reached across the table to take her hand, feeling the familiar spark of their magical connection intensify at the physical contact. Through their bond, he sent a wave of affection and gratitude that words couldn't adequately express. Luna smiled, receiving and returning the sentiment effortlessly. Their ability to share emotions and even basic thoughts through their bond had strengthened with practice, becoming as natural as breathing. What do you want to do today? Harry asked, though he already had a sense of her answer through their connection. I thought we might visit the tidal pools, Luna replied. The alignment of the moon and sun today creates optimal conditions for observing glimmering tide sprites. 6 months ago, Harry might have assumed tide sprites were another of Luna's imaginary creatures. Now, having seen so many supposedly non-existent magical phenomena through Luna's unique perspective, he simply nodded and asked, what should we bring to attract them? Luna's smile brightened. Sea salt crystals and perhaps some of the silver dust left over from our Patronus heart experiments. They're attracted to magical resonance. As they prepared for their expedition to the tidal pools, Harry found himself marveling at how completely his life had transformed. The war was over. Voldemort was gone. The wizarding world was rebuilding, with Kingsley Shacklebolt leading a reformed ministry focused on unity and equality. But the most profound change was within himself. Through Luna, he had learned to see the world differently, to look beyond the obvious, to question established limitations, to find wonder in the overlooked corners of existence. And through Harry, Luna had found validation for her unique perspective, a partner who didn't try to change her or dismiss her ideas, who valued her precisely because she saw what others missed. You're thinking very loudly again, Luna observed as they walked hand in hand down the path toward the beach. Just appreciating where we are, Harry replied. Where we've been. Where we're going. Luna squeezed his hand, her silver eyes reflecting the morning sunlight. The best adventures are the ones we don't plan for. Like falling in love with you. Harry smiled, feeling their bond warm with shared emotion. The unexpected match. Not so unexpected, if you know how to look properly, Luna countered with her characteristic insight. Some things are written in patterns most people never notice. As they reached the shoreline, where sea and sky met in a canvas of blue, Harry was inclined to believe her. After all, Luna Lovegood had always seen what others couldn't, including the perfect place for Harry Potter's heart to finally find its home. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.